Committee meeting on Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. My name is Dave Bryant. I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee, and I'm joined here in person today by two of my colleagues. We also have another colleague member, Dirk Wessels, who is joining us online. And we've received some late notice of other members who will be arriving a little bit late, but we are quorate as confirmed by Mr. Kutsia, our presiding officer, so we can then move on to the business of the day. If we can just start the meeting with a brief moment of silence, especially thinking about all of those who have been impacted by the natural disasters over the past few weeks. Thank you very much. Before I introduce and welcome the team from the AG's office in our first presentation, I'm going to give the members present in the committee room an opportunity first to introduce themselves, and then we'll go online after that.
Morning, Chair, and members of the committee and guests here. I'm Leon van Wyk, a member of the committee.
Morning, Chair, and morning, colleagues from the department and our colleagues, part of our committee. My name is Noko Masipa. I'm a member of this standing committee. Thank you.
And as I understand, I think there's one member online. If you can introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Chair. I am Dirk Wessels, and I'm a member of this committee.
Thank you. Any other members online?
Good morning, Chair.
Oh, there we are.
Yes. Good morning, Chair. My name is Beauty Stoffel, and I'm a member of the committee.
Thank you, Member Stoffel. As I understand, you will be arriving to the committee room a little bit later, so we look forward to seeing you then.
Yes, Chair.
Fantastic. Okay. Colleagues, before I move to the AG's office, I also want to just briefly welcome some journalism students who are joining us today from the CPUT, Cape Peninsula University of Technology. I was given three names. I see there are two of you here. I was given Mbali Entle Mpangele, Jemina Skonyela, and Zenati Kweta. Who has joined us today? Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. You're more than welcome to enjoy the meeting, and also make sure that you please join us during the break to have some snacks and a chat. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Mamogwe, thank you so much for joining. And I will allow you to introduce your team and then take us through the presentation. Thank you again for the participation of the AG's office so far. It's been really heartening to have the cooperation from your office in the best interest of ensuring that our municipalities are optimally functional going forward. So over to you.
Thank you, Chair. You know, when you're about to speak, there's always something on your throat. And but good morning, colleagues, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. My name is Thomas Mamogwe. I am the acting business unit leader. Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Mamogwe, I'm very sorry to interrupt you. I just need to quickly mention that both our minister and our HOD, Graham Poulser, have unfortunately submitted apologies and aren't going to be able to be physically present today, but we do have Ms. Krayling and some of the other officials who are standing in to assist. All right.
No, thank you so much. Once again, good morning. My name is Thomas Mamogwe. I'm the acting business unit leader for the Western Cape AGSA office. I am not alone. I'm joined by, on my right, Liesel Klue, who is the acting deputy business unit leader. We're still getting used to all these acting arrangements, and we've got Zini Mvimbeli on my left, who is our manager in the liaison office, and Tsepo, who is in our liaison office as well. We will also be joined by Ashley Orkels, who is the other deputy business unit leader. He is on his way, stuck in traffic as well. I think that the rain this morning is just causing a bit of havoc for all of us, but we are here. I think present from the office of the AGSA to present to you, Chair. Really two things, the local government audit outcomes for the Western Cape, with a particular focus on two municipalities that the committee had asked us to present on, one being Kanaland local municipality, as well as Neisna local municipality. So those are the two municipalities that we will later on in our presentation just zoom into a bit more and just discuss with you in a bit more detail than we would ordinarily do with the other ones. Chair, we did submit to the committee two briefing documents that outlines the details of the two municipalities I've mentioned. We've also furnished the committee with a presentation. I will take the committee through the presentation and just make reference to the briefing documents where necessary and where applicable, to not go through all the three documents, as I don't believe that will be more time efficient. I think for us, we are more interested in the engagement of the committee in terms of your interests and whether we're covering, the things that you are concerned about, and to to provide the insights that are required by this committee, and to also speak to some of the recommendations for the findings that we might have discussed with you. So what you see on the board, Chair, is the slide on the green side of that slide. It outlines our mission as the office of the AGSA, which has not changed, and we've presented in many platforms. But our mission as the office of the Auditor General of South Africa, with a constitutional mandate as a supreme audit institution of the country, is to enable oversight by coming to platforms as this and giving you the insights from the work that we have done to allow you to play your oversight role, is to ensure that there's accountability in the country and there's governance in the public sector through the work that we do, which is auditing the books of the country, and particularly of the province. We want to be relevant. That's our vision. We want to be a relevant supreme audit institution that enhances accountability. So when you see us, you must see us as relevant people to the work that you do, so that this can be accountability in the country, and we can know the state of affairs of the country, particularly of the province, and in this instance that we're going to discuss, the Western Cape Province municipalities. When we try to demonstrate and to play out this constitutional mandate, Chair, we have set back as the office of the AGSA and said we needed to define what good looks like. When we have done the work that we have done, how should institutions of government, particularly municipalities, look like, for us to say that they've done and they've executed the mandate that they were given to them in the Constitution? And we went to define this in 4 quadrants. We went to say these should be institutions of government that shows performance. These should be institutions of government that are accountable, they're transparent, and they show institutional integrity. And that's what good looks like for us. So if we say we've audited, government has played an oversight role over municipalities, municipal managers have done what they're supposed to do, CFOs of municipalities have done what they're supposed to do. When we all step back, we should all agree that these are institutions that have showed, we call it the PETI, or the performance, accountability, transparency, and institutional government, institutional integrity. I beg your pardon. So those are institutions of government that we are striving for as the Office of the AGSA. And our audit product, or our audit mandate, fits directly into these, in how we audit these areas. So when you look at performance, for instance, we look at whether the municipality has demonstrated commitment to improving the lives of its citizens, which is within their demarcated areas, to deliver on their legislated mandate and strategic objectives aligned to people's needs, being financially sustainable, and avoiding harm to the public and the public sector institution itself. So that's what we believe. When we look at the financial statements, we'll look at the financial sustainability of that municipality. When we look at the performance report, the SDBIP, the IDP processes, and those documents as well, and how they are achieved against those particular targets that we've set within those documents, then we are auditing the performance of that municipality. And through our material irregularities, and which some of them we'll discuss today as well, we look at whether there's harm in the public sector institutions, because we have raised quite a number of across the organization of material irregularities, and at NICE now we've also raised two that speaks particularly to harm to the institution and harm to the public, and we'll discuss that as we go through the presentation this morning. Accountability, I think that is also something that obviously through our work we look at. This is, whether the municipality is responsive to the public, oversight, and other stakeholders through reporting and providing answers to their mandated responsibilities, the actions that they've taken and the decisions that they've made, and the shift consequence management. So you would see that we audit a particular focus area that we term for consequence management, and we deal with that, and some of the outcomes you'll see will also demonstrate where consequence management was not swift enough. I mean, through how we audit compliance with laws and regulations. We write to the municipality our findings, and we expect them to respond in providing us with details of why they took certain decisions. So, to further strengthen this aspect of accountability, honorable members. Transparency, specifically as well, we look at whether they provide us with the information that we need, they provide the public with the information that they need. We have, of recent, received a lot of complaints from the public to the Office of the AGSA about municipalities not being transparent in providing them with information, which is an area I believe in the province we need to strengthen. In how transparent municipalities are in providing information to the public, instead of them depending on third party, such as the Office of the AGSA. We are not against receiving those complaints. Of course, we are open to that, but we do believe that a better demonstration would be for the municipality itself to provide its constituencies and its public with the necessary information. Mr. Okas just walked in, Chair, and we've already introduced him earlier on. And lastly is the institutional integrity, which is my personal favorite of what good looks like, because it's about the moral fiber of an institution, and it's about the ethics within that institution. It's about whether that institution acts in the best interest of that institution, whether the individuals in that municipality act and the leaders in that municipality act in the best interest of that institution, which is a very sometimes it's not tangible, but when you walk into a municipality, you see it, you feel it, and we reflect on it, and many a times media would be the first to pick up on that fiber. Many a times SIUs, the Hawks, and those institutions that have got investigative powers would be in that institution as a demonstration that this institution does not necessarily have the necessary fiber that we need to talk about. And of course, through our audit work as well, we do identify those red flags and those indicators that this fiber, actually this moral fiber, is shaky, if I put it that way, for lack of a better expression. But be that as it may, that is what we define, Chair and honorable members, as what good looks like, what a product of a good institution of government looks like. And for us, we strive to make sure that we provide recommendations where we see weaknesses, and then we also lift up the root causes for some of the failures in some of the aspects, and in so doing, allowing for corrective action to make sure that there's performance, there's accountability, there's transparency in institutions of government, and there's definitely institutional integrity. Of course, we know that, in doing this work, Chair and honorable members, we can't do it by ourselves. There's a value chain. There's what we term the accountability ecosystem, which is all those players within the sphere of government that should play their role. And when everyone plays their role, we believe that we can be able to perform what good looks like, which is performance, accountability, transparency, and institutional integrity. And these people should, all these players should be doing what they're supposed to be doing in line with their roles, responsibilities, and their mandate. Because you are here because you've got a role. You are here because you've got a mandate that is probably sitting somewhere in a piece of legislation, in a policy document. That we do believe that once you can outline that role properly, we should work. We should then all work together, as a tight knit to make sure that government is functional and is effective. You would see, the AJ is put on in the middle of that, but we not for any significance role necessarily, but just to say that we pull it together in terms of bring all the insights through our mandate, and our mandate covers 3 areas. We audit financial statements, we audit performance reporting, and we audit compliance with laws and regulations. And in our report as well, we then reflect on material irregularities in instances where these are through our enforcement leg, and we also provide what we say is internal control deficiencies in our auditor's report. So our auditor's report, you will see that it will be divided into 5 areas where we reflect on your financial statements, we reflect on performance reporting, we reflect on compliance with laws and regulations, and then we further reflect on 2 areas. We'll reflect on whether there were material irregularities, and then we'll reflect on control breakdown within that institution. And these control breakdowns, usually we use as a lever for influence, because we're saying we're identifying these controls. Maybe let's sit and see with the municipality how better we can influence you to strengthen these controls within your institution. So that is how we believe that we are contributing into this accountability ecosystem. Of course, honorable members, you also see your role, around provincial legislatures. And it is right there, and its roles, of course, driven by the legislation and also driven by your own rules within your house. That settles it. Maybe then let's move to the outcomes of the financial year 2024-2025 that we're looking at. So the green would say that these are clean audits that are in the province. So and we do a comparison on 2 levels. We do a comparison between the last year of the previous administration, and we do a comparison with the year that just passed. So the first comparison that you would see is between 2020, 2021, and the 2024 and 2025. wherein you would see that there were 22 when we entered this administration. There was 22 clean audits, but we're sitting at 21. Slight regression. We had the yellow, which is your unqualified with findings. Those we had 5 at the beginning of that administration, and now we have 4. Another indicator of a regression. Chair. And then you will see that we have added the purple color, which is your qualified audits. We had 3 in 2020, 2021. Now we're sitting with 3 again, which is a stagnation in those audit outcome in 2024, 2025. And you know that the more we move towards the side of that graph, towards your right, the more is unwanted audit outcomes. The only wanted audit outcomes will be the green one, which is the clean audit outcome. Everything else just is a demonstration of a regression in the audit outcome. We had no disclaimer of audit outcomes in which is the red part, no adverse in when we started the administration. Right now we are sitting with an adverse audit opinion, which is Lainsburg, and a Ghanaland that is sitting at certainly we're going to discuss obviously in further details, which is sitting at a disclaimer of audit outcomes. So that and then on your further right, you'll then see that there were 2 improvements and 6 regressions over the period, demonstrating a regression of audit outcomes between administration periods. In a direct comparison with last year, you will see that there were 20, 6, 2, 1, 1 in terms of disclaimer and adverse still remained 1, and qualified was 2 last year and increased again this year. And last year there were 6 unqualified and 4 unqualified with findings in the current year. Check. Maybe just to then step back and think about what we are seeing on the board. Firstly, you're seeing a trend where the yellow zone, there's this in and out. Some fall in the yellow zone from the clean, then goes into the yellow zone, and then they go back to clean. Sometimes they stay in the yellow for a long time. And that level of complacency is something that we, as the Office of the AGSA, believe that it's not sustainable. Firstly, the yellow zone is not the destination. The destination is the clean audit outcome. And many a times when auditees sit in the yellow zone, they still have findings in compliance, they still have findings in service delivery. And that on its own is an indicator of a municipality that is not operating at its optimal capacity. And for that reason, that yellow zone we should also interrogate and speak to. I mean, yeah. With findings, yeah. And the likes of Ghanaland, I mean, I beg your pardon, of Neisna is sitting in that yellow zone currently. And we know the challenges that are sitting in that municipality. But it's sitting there, and it has been there. Then it went out, and then it went back in again. And that shows you the unsustainability of auditees that are sitting in the yellow zone. And certainly that's why we're here today, going to talk about Neisna municipality in more details, particularly because it's one of those municipalities that are sitting in that yellow zone. So many times people feel comfortable that, oh, I got unqualified, but there's still findings that you need to deal with, and those findings will slowly encroach on your ability to operate as a municipality if not arrested adequately at a given time. So that is basically the outcome. The other outcome that we need to talk about is the clean. To say, yes, it's well good for clean audits to be there, but can we juxtapose that to service delivery in the most of strongest terms? can a clean audit resonate strongly to the members of those communities? And that is something that I think, as this committee, our call to you is to agitate those clean audits to be able to also drive service delivery. And how we believe that can be done is through making sure that the KPIs, the SDBIPs, and particularly the IDP, and us going into elections and a new IDP process going to to ensue, to ensure that what they put in those IDPs is credible, but not only credible, but it addresses the needs of those communities. What we often see is a misalignment between the needs and what is within those IDPs. And I do believe that we have an opportunity now going into a new cycle of this to strengthen that process of just checks and balances to ensure that the needs are aligned. Aligned strongly to what we put in our 5-year plans through the IDP process, and certainly through the SDBIP processes and so forth. And we need to really strengthen the quality of the KPIs as well, in which we put in those IDPs. We believe that the quality of the KPIs will also be able to measure what matters for the citizens. And they are not just a tick box exercise that is administrative in nature, but more service delivery in nature, and speaks to the things that we want to redress and address as leadership and oversight of those communities. So that is really our call for the clean audits. And certainly the purple, the pink, and the red, which is your qualified, your adverse, as well as your disclaimer of audit opinion. Those ones we need to get out of that space completely. That should be our focus, and that's what we should be working towards with those municipalities, to make sure that the structures, the controls, the environment in those municipalities are conducive to ensure good administration and good governance, certainly. So that is just an indication, Chair, of the of where each of these each municipality is sitting. I really do know that we it's not about who in the zoo at the moment. I will just zoom into the two that we want to, but just to mention the regression at City of Cape Town, which is a big municipality and a metro, that had happened in the current year. So you would see that previously it was green, but it's sitting now under unqualified with findings due to some supply chain management findings that we had at the City of Cape Town. City of Cape Town accounts for 70% approximately of the budget for the province, and if that budget is sitting under the yellow zone, that is certainly something that we should be concerned about and work to ensure that it gets back to the green block, just purely because of its magnitude and how big it is in holding the economy of the province. The regressed as well is Bito, as well as Prince Albert, that now moved to qualified audit opinions. Those municipalities as well, we should not just Prince Albert is not that big in size, and one it's one that we can quickly turn around if effort is paid to this municipality. There remains municipalities that are on the financial recovery plans, and your likes of your Beaufort West, which improved in the current year. We could see that intervention, and Provincial Treasury being there on the ground with that municipality assisted certainly to making sure that they improve their audit outcomes from a qualified audit opinion to an unqualified with findings, which we, as an office of the AGSA, we congratulate, and we are we are pleased when we see that forward movement as well. We also had improvements at Cederberg as well as Oudtshoorn, moving from unqualified with findings to clean audit outcomes, which is another forward trajectory which we of course welcome and congratulate the province for. And there's those municipalities right in the middle that are unchanged, that are stagnant, which are, as indicated, the clean ones. We need to make sure that we strengthen the service delivery aspect of those clean municipalities. The unqualified with findings, we make sure that we work with them to get out of that space, to go into clean audit opinion. The Tievatas of this world, to work with them to make sure that we is a qualified municipality, that municipality gets out of that qualified zone back into clean audit space, as well as the Lanesbeck and the Kanalands, that we work with them as well to progress within the trajectory. The next slide, I think I've spoken briefly about the next slide around the budget that is sitting in the yellow zone. So this circle shows yellow. Yellow is unqualified with findings. Green remains clean. Purple is your qualified audit opinions, and your pink and your red becoming adverse and disclaimer audit opinions. So you'll see that 70% of your budget is held in the yellow zone, which is purely because of the impact of City of Cape Town. Some of the municipalities, of course, that are sitting in that yellow zone with the budget is your Central Karoo, and this Knysna, as well as Beaufort West. So those would be the 4 municipalities that you see depicted there. In your green municipalities, there's a lot of municipalities. It's 21, as I've previously indicated, but this 21 only holds 28% of your budget. So, I mean, we have clean audits in number, but in terms of the budget and the impact of those clean audits in the whole fiscus of the municipalities, I mean, I think the municipalities in the province hold 114 billion rand of budget, and 28% of that budget is clean audits, while the majority of that budget is unqualified with findings. We do have 2% of the budget being held by 3 municipalities that are in a qualified zone. I mean, I said Prince Albert, Beto, as well as Tievatas. And then we've got a very small, I guess, margin, 1 each, which is holding the Lanesbeck and the Kanaland of this world, holding the rest of the budget in that sense. So again, message of this slide is unqualified with findings is a complacent area to be, and we do not believe that is the ultimate place for municipalities to be. They need to get out of that space into the clean audit space. We show that there were 4 of that was there for 1 year, and 2 of them has been there for 2 to 4 years over the period, I think, of the administration. So you must compare from 2020, 2021, and 2024, 2025 to get that total of 6. Because last night I was reading through this and I said, okay, these numbers don't make sense, but I realized that it actually does make sense. So we do see that Knysna, for example, is sitting in that yellow zone, and it still has 2 active material irregularities. So you are sitting in the yellow zone thinking it is an area that is I'll call it comfortable because it's not that dire, but there's still material irregularities, for example, in the space of Knysna. So for me, that is what is impossible. What is important for us to make sure that there's movement in these municipalities. What we see in these municipalities in the yellow zone, Chair, is that yes, there's 4 of them. They all have 100% of them have got material non-compliance with key legislation. They are all collectively sitting with 519 million rand, 0.6 million rand of irregular expenditure over the period. There's 200 million rand of unauthorized expenditures within these municipalities. They hold 5.3 million rand of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. there's persistent control weaknesses in these municipalities. So we might want to say, you know, these are municipalities that, okay, they are unqualified, they're yellow, but we are at pains to say that there's still weaknesses in these municipalities. There's still work to be done with these municipalities to make sure that these municipalities get to the green to the green zone. The other percentages are self-telling. The next slide, Chair, is just a slide that just shows, you know, I say, you know, the cost of getting municipalities to clean audits, and why it is then important for us to insist on municipalities being clean. Because you would see that, you know, if you go just to the right of that slide, the salaries of people in the finance division, the consultants in the municipalities that they pull in to make sure that the financial statements are of the right quality, and they are compliant to the reporting framework, which is GRAP. And then you go further to also include the cost of internal audit, which are audit divisions in municipalities to make sure that the controls of those municipalities are effective. And we also include our own cost, you know, because sometimes when we get there, we get set of financial statements and we still need to do a lot of work to get it to a clean audit. So we also include our costs. So you will see that really the costs are really high, and that's why we need to insist on making sure that, you know, our municipalities do get to clean audit outcomes. If you go this slide, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but because I believe that I've sort of touched on it. What you see on the slide, Chair, is just you know, I guess a rundown of, you know, how one would get to an effective IDP process and an IDP that would translate to municipalities providing, you know, a more reliable and useful piece of reporting for the service delivery work that they've done. So especially now that I've mentioned earlier that we're going into the election process, and after the election process, we would expect, you know, there will be processes to do the IDP. So, you know, we take it on the far left from the National Development Plan and the medium-term strategic framework, and then how it flows down to municipalities, and then what municipalities should be using really to get to an effective or rather to a credible IDP. That includes making sure that, you know, municipalities look at their you know, their collection, their sector report. What is the needs in the municipality? What are their financial strategies? You know, engaging communities and making sure that, you know, all of these things gets to be taken into consideration to ensure that the municipalities do have a credible IDP. I think ours is to ensure that, you know, we audit that IDP once done, but we believe that, you know, the process to get into that IDP is to make sure that there's an impact on the lives of the people sitting in those demarcated areas, certainly also needs attention, particularly from those people in the accountability ecosystem. Honorable members that just walked in, I will just acknowledge. My name is Thomas Mamoche, and I'm from the AGSA. Honorable members, and we are just right in the middle of our presentation.
I think we just quickly, briefly introduce the members. I know there's been a lot of traffic this morning with the rain, so you are more than excused for arriving late. Totally understand. It's member Grant Marie and member Beauty Stoffels. If you'd like to just say good morning quickly.
Good morning, member. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks. You can continue.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we'll move to this slide that also, you know, is an area that we look at, which is the area of material findings on compliance, which is those areas that lead to irregular expenditure. The closing balance for unauthorized expenditure decreased in the current year. It moved from decreased from 835 million to 767 million rand. And in the current year, or the year that we're looking at, there was 180 million rand of unauthorized expenditure that was incurred by municipalities in the province. Whilst for irregular expenditure as well, we moved from 2.5 billion rand, or 2,583 million rand, to 1,781 million rand irregular expenditure, which was and of that 1,786 million rand, which is 1.7 billion rand approximately, of irregular expenditure was incurred in the current year. There's been obviously a slight increase when it comes to fruitless and wasteful expenditure, moving from 37 million rand to 39 million rand in the province, and 12.57 million rand of that being incurred in the current year. Of irregular expenditure. These are unwanted expenditures. I mean, whether it's is 1 rand or 1 million rand, for us, it's important. It ought to not be in the system. It needs to, to move. What you would see on the right, I think that just depicts material findings. I think those are just numbers. It's not something that I will want to spend a bit of time on. But on the right, of the slide, which is the most common area of material findings, we are finding that most of the municipalities in the 2024-2025, which is the dark blue color, and the grayish color on the right of the slide is your 2023-2024 one. You'll find most common findings. So you'll find the most prevalent one would be prevention of unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. So 8 of the municipalities in the current year were unable to prevent those type of expenditures, while 9 in the previous municipality. In the previous financial year, my apologies. And then procurement and contract management findings are stagnant, with 7 last year and 7 in the current year. Consequence management compliance findings, there was 5 in the previous year and 6 5 in the current year, 6 in the previous year. Material misstatements and limitations in the financial statements that were submitted. There were 7 municipalities in the current year and 6 in the previous year, while expenditure management, where these are either 30-day payments not being done by municipalities on time, whether it's about municipalities being unable to prevent unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless expenditure, or paying prepayments and not being able to recoup them adequately. So those type of findings, there will be 5 in the current year that we audited, and 4 in the previous year. Revenue management, where you find that municipalities don't have effective system of revenue collection and so forth. There will be 3 in the current year, well, 4 in the previous year. And then where the strategic planning processes of municipalities have got challenges, whether it's about them doing the in-year SDBIP or those type of processes. There were 2 in the current year and 3 in the previous year. So those are the nature of some of the non-compliances that we are picking up in the environment here. I think this statement just zooms into the contract management, because we see that most of the municipalities that move from clean into unqualified with findings, most of them is because of contract procurement and contract management usually. So we zoomed into this area, and you'll see that there's 7 municipalities here. Maybe I can start with the block as it is. There were 8 municipalities that did not have findings at all, which is something that we commend and we are happy for. There were 17 municipalities that had findings, but these findings were not material. And then there were 6 that had material findings in those municipalities. So the nature of those findings you will find in the block that is below that, where 7 municipalities were wherein there were uncompetitive and unfair procurement processes in those municipalities, meaning if those municipalities needed to get quotations, they didn't go out and get quotations. If those 7 of those municipalities needed to follow a bid process, but they didn't follow a bid process, or there were limitations in that bid process. And then there were 8 municipalities, or 8 awards rather, to prohibited as people. So this will be 8 awards of about 15 million rand that were made to people that either falsified declarations. These people were in the working for the state, working for those type of things. Those would be 8 awards that we picked up on the audit process to an amount of 15 million rand. That were in that way. I guess the irregular expenditure amount, we already spoken about it to being approximately 1.7 billion rand in the environment. We use the word approximately because with the amount of irregular expenditure, it's often not a complete amount, because some of the irregular expenditures the municipality says it's not a material amount, I'm not going to disclose it. So you don't then account for it because it's not disclosed by the municipality. But surely if we put 30 municipalities and undisclosed, then we can get a better figure. But for now, disclosed by municipalities, it's a 1.7 billion rand. Honorable members, we move to the next slide, which speaks to our material irregularities. Within, since the material irregularities definition was promulgated in the Public Auditors Act, we have raised in the province 10 material irregularities. And we had material irregularities that account, 6 of them accounts for material financial loss at an estimated cost of 58.1 billion rand in the province. 2 of those were raised in 2020-2021 at City of Cape Town, which we subsequently managed to resolve the city. They've taken the appropriate action to deal with those losses. We had material irregularities, 2 of them at Beaufort West in 2022-2023. One of them related to underbilling of revenue. We had another one where an employee's remuneration was in excess of the remuneration policy. That was in 2022-2023, which we subsequently also dealt with. 2 active material irregularities, one at Kanaland, where poor financial management on the upgrades of and refurbishment of a wastewater treatment plant to be raised in 2024-2025. And Kanaland local municipality, where water meters were not maintained, leading to certain revenue losses. And those are the 2 that we are reflecting there. We have 2 material irregularities that we've raised on harm to the public sector institution. That is one at Laingsburg and one at Kanaland, and these particularly because of the continued lack of information to properly report and to having a disclaimer audit opinion, having an adverse audit opinion, that on its own erodes the institution, in that then the municipality is unable to know how to how it spends its budget to support the communities. The municipality, if you're having findings on or limitations on assets, you don't know where your infrastructure, can potentially go wrong for you to be able to support those communities. And we're certainly seeing, of course, in those municipalities, high water losses, high electricity losses, and that shows that that is losses that could have contributed towards the supply to communities, and in making sure that those communities actually get the services that in which they deserve. And lastly, there's two where we raised, which is harm to the general public, and both of them were raised in 2023, 2024 at a Knysna municipality. For lack of proper infrastructure maintenance relating to water treatment plant, leading to contamination of an estuary. And the other one is also still a national local municipality that also speaks to harm from solid waste that transferred to station and waste disposal operations. So there was solid waste that basically got disposed where it ought not to not go, causing substantial harm to those communities because of just how dangerous that is. The impact of these of course is controls that are not strengthened in those municipalities. It's money that is lost in the system, and that those suppliers should be called to account, and that money be given back. And obviously addressing the harm to the public. We call upon obviously the committee, in the report of the MEC, the Section 47 report, and so forth, to also question that report and what the municipality itself is doing, but also what the MEC is doing to assist in making sure that we deal with these issues. Of course, we don't raise these issues for them to sit there, especially a material irregularity, is a call for intervention. In my view, it's a call for intervention by all the people within the accountability ecosystem, within the roles and responsibilities that they have, within the mandate that they have, to say how do we then use our mandate to make sure that we assist these municipalities in not having these type of audit outcomes. I think, Chair, that is it on the province side. We're gonna move specifically then to Kanaland as requested by yourself and the committee. I mean, with Kanaland, I thought maybe we start with what we also depicted for you in the briefing note, and to you and the committee. Of course, Kanaland is a municipality that is under coalition, and that in itself has shown so many changes. What the trend that we're picking is that if there's a change in the structure of the coalition, there's then become a change in the municipal managers, then they become a change in the CFOs. In the period that we looked at since 2020, 2021, which is the administration period, there were 4 municipal managers that we could identify within Kanaland. I mean, and there was about, I think we got to 6 chief financial officers, many in acting capacities, not permanent. And every time there's a move in the coalition, we see the move in the CFO, we see the move in the municipal manager, causing an instability in that municipality. That level of instability in itself makes it very difficult for administrative stability, for the control environment to be embedded, for us to produce financial statements that are credible, for us to produce a performance report that is credible, for people in the municipalities to comply with laws and regulations. So that is where I want to start. The second part is the effectiveness of the audit committee at Kanaland. There's certainly in the year that we looked at, the chairperson resigned. The rest of the committee, audit committee, was disbanded. At Ganaland, there were they did not hold the 4 meetings that they ought to have had. The financial statements were not reviewed by that committee. They could not advise mayor, council of the work that they've done in the year to make sure that the political leadership gets to receive information that can strengthen how they approve the budgets and the control and the policies of that municipality, certainly. And that for me is another weakness in the governance of a municipality. The third aspect is the one I want to talk about is the internal audit division at that municipality. There's only one internal auditor. The internal auditor does not have the prerequisite qualifications as you would expect for an internal auditor to have to allow for that internal audit to be to have, but also certainly one person for the size of the municipality, for the type of municipality that Ghana is, cannot be effective in making sure that the controls by themselves are strengthened. So that unit also needs to be capacitated to allow for the for the municipality to be effective and for the internal audit division to be effective, certainly, honorable members. Part of the results of Kanalanta there, you'll see that in the beginning of the administration it was a qualified audit opinion, and then it just went further down in subsequent years, having findings not only in the financial, as you would know, we audit 3 areas. We audit the financial statements, we audit the performance reporting, and we audit laws, compliance with the laws and regulations. Kanaland municipalities had findings across, and the findings in the financial statements were so severe and pervasive that we ended up with a disclaimer of audit opinion. And really, this is a municipality that we want certainly to get out of this area of a disclaimer. We need this municipality to move backwards towards being effective. But Chair, some of the root causes, is I think I've tried to highlight around the stability of the municipality, making sure that the CFO reviews the financial statements. The CFO is there. There was an intervention by Salga that appointed a consultant, but the effectiveness of the consultant, in our view, certainly did not assist the municipality because the person didn't fully know even the financial system and how and making sure that they put in place the necessary checks and balances to allow for a set of financial statements that are credible. And I mean, the rest of the things really, it's the picture, Chair, is yeah, I guess dire. If you're looking for any finding, I mean, we can read it to you. We've given you the briefing document that includes all of this information. I think the one that I want to just pause on is just the lack of consequence management, because you can't have these type of outcomes for years on years, and there isn't an effective consequence management. Maybe the question we should be asking is, who is responsible, who should be doing what, and who ought to have done what, and how do we course correct? Because I guess for now we need to be forward thinking and saying, how do we course correct to make make sure that that municipality goes to to where it needs to get to. But Chair, I think I've covered a bulk of what is sitting on that slide. But so far as to say that we also raised issues on the material uncertainty relating to going concern. But what we basically mean with that, Chair, is that if you look at the financial viability of this municipality, you worry, because it has an unfunded budget, first and foremost, which is obviously problematic because where are you going to get the money, to fund your budget? There's high ESCOM and water board debts. I think they have about 58.2 million rand of that. They were unable to produce information to us, and certainly the reason for the disclaimer that can account for their water losses. So that in itself shows your ability, firstly, to have the technical expertise to be able to quantify the technical losses, because some of the losses becomes because of engineering challenges, but because you don't have that technical expertise, you don't have enough information to help you quantify that part. Secondly, so it's a skills issue on the one hand. On the other hand, it's also like the diligence of keeping registers of losses, of complaints, of where the repairs needs to happen, for you to fix the losses where there was a pipe burst and the water was so having those type of checks and balances also assist you to at least gather enough information for you to be able to disclose this. The other part is also complaints management, because the complaints in themselves ought to demonstrate to you where you've fixed a pipe, there was a leakage, so you are able to quantify that loss at least. So there's also that ineffectiveness for me. And lastly, it's about this 8% maintenance plan, where we say there must be 8% of your budget that is, geared towards ensuring that you do a routine maintenance. And these are not maintenances that happen because of a disaster, but these are routine maintenances that allows for that municipality to be to continue on effectively. And for me, it's you don't disclose a water loss. We think, okay, maybe you don't, but it's an indicator of systematic challenges in that municipality, certainly. There was a 9.9 million rand of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. I mean, the irregular expenditure of that municipality, the closing balance was 2.2 million rand, whilst unauthorized expenditure was 127 million rand, and fruitless and wasteful expenditure, I said, that the chairperson, it is 9.9 million rand. I think, yeah, that is what we want to really talk about. So far as to say, there's also two material irregularities at Ghanaland, one on the harm and on institutions, as I've said before, on the repeat disclaimer, and one that will talk to the financial management, where we issued of recent, Chair. I mean, we also looked at infrastructure. I think it's a treatment plant at Ghanaland. This is the one wherein we also talked about this material irregularity. The second material irregularity, there was the contractor in that municipality. We could identify it with it had a lot of red flags. So through our audit process, we identified it in that way. And the contract was awarded on the 15th of January 2024. This was for the upgrading and refurbishment of the Ladysmith wastewater treatment works, phase 2. The contractor awarded to the value of 20.1 million rand through, but the scope was reduced to 11.9 million rand. And they started work on the 14th of May 2025. With envisaged completion date of 13 December 2024. We looked at the life cycle of the work that has been done, and we identified the following risks, including quality concerns, project delays, increased costs, and compliance with compliance issues on that contractor. And on 10 June 2025, the municipality terminated the contract of this municipality, but because they were poor performing, there was incorrect payments to the supplier. The performance guaranteed of this project had expired before the termination, and there was really losses that were then experienced by this through this contract that we looked at these municipalities, and hence we raised the material irregularity on this contract. So really, there is material irregularity that has been issued of this loss that is in the system. The municipality is trying to respond, and making sure that they call on the performance guarantee and so forth. But we still waiting for the municipality to respond on how they're going to deal and recoup the loss that we had identified through this project. And then for Knysna municipality, honorable members, I think we've spoken about as well about their outcome, but I think I want to start in the similar fashion as well. I guess as you would know as well, at Knysna municipality, the coalition that is there, again, we have seen that in that municipality there's been seven municipal managers since 2001. There has been 6 CFOs since 2001. Again, stability. Again, there's no way that with that unstable type of environment, with no permanent municipal manager, with no permanent CFO, you would then have effective controls that are sustainable, and the control environment will be able to withstand those type of changes. Again, when we spoke, there's only 3 internal audit members. I mean, for the size of municipalities, the size of assets that are sitting in that municipality, one would expect for the size of the council that is sitting there as well, you'd expect not to have only 3 internal audit members. Maybe the capacity of that internal audit needs to be looked at for it to be effective. But the outcomes, as well as having, as I have indicated, Chair, in the 3 areas that we are auditing, you are seeing that Knysna is also one of those that has got findings, except for the financial statements in the current year, where we gave them an unqualified audit opinion. But there's findings in compliance, there's findings in performance reporting, and these have been consistent. I mean, across the period, or in the last 5 years, certainly. And also, it's one of those municipalities that goes into a different category than back to yellow. And that complacency is a demonstration, and that's why we are at pains again saying this yellow we need to unpack, because when you unpack the findings in the yellow, you actually see then the systematic challenges in those municipalities. For the rest of the presentation, Chair, I can just maybe touch on the financial health of Knysna, because that's also one of your first indicators, I guess, for you to see when the municipality is starting to not go on the right path. And at Knysna, I mean, if we look at their credit payment period, you'll see that this period has decreased. Of course, it was 96 days before. Now they're paying their creditors in 76 days, but that's still not within the 30 days that is required. Debtors collection period. Also, they used to collect their debtors in 56 days. Now they're collecting their debtors in 53 days. That is also still not an indicator of good collection. Because they have increased the impairment, meaning the impairment is basically saying, the likelihood of you collecting this debt. They've increased it to 75%. So they're saying we're giving these people services, but our likelihood of collecting that money is very low. It's only 25% in effect. 75% of those debtors, we are likely to write them off. So in the financial statements, they're indicating that those are impaired, meaning these are limping debtors, for a lack of a better expression. So they will not be able to collect them, or there's an indicator, strong indicator, that they will not be able to collect those debtors. I've spoken about water losses. There's been significant increases of water losses at Knysna, moving from 34% into 48% in the year that we've looked at. Repairs and maintenance, I've indicated that, there's this National Treasury norm of 8% of your budget being towards repairs and maintenance of your assets. And in Knysna, certainly, in the prior year, only 3.3% of their budget went to maintenance, and current year, and the year before was 4.5%, and the current year it was 2.3%. That is already an indicator that your infrastructure is not looked after, or well looked after, and you should, for some reason or the other, expect that there's going to be something that breaks, and it's going to be an emergency. And when it's an emergency, then it's going to be extra cost. Procurement processes are not going to be followed, and it just opens up the system to misuse. So I mean, I think in a long term, there's just been a decline in trajectory in the municipality chair. So far as to also close the conversation by saying that we do have two active material irregularities in Knysna. One on the harm, and that is the harm that the solid waste transfer is causing to the station, and the other one on the solid waste as well. What is our call to the committee? I mean, and the recommendations. I mean, we've made the recommendations to the MEC. We've made the recommendations to the MEC of Finance, but to the committee, we're saying, please engage the MEC of our local government. I think he ought to have been here today, but I think, Chair, you spoke about the apology. On the processes followed in terms of Section 1312, which requires the MEC to assess whether the municipalities have adequately addressed any issues raised by the AGSA in the audit reports, and to report any omissions by the municipalities to the legislature within 60 days. So that is our call to you. I think the call to the other role players, I will not go through, but we certainly also called to the MECs to provide their inputs. I've spoken for a long time, Chair, but certainly the passion that we have as the office to get these municipalities to the right space. And I'm not alone. Mr. Okas and Liesel will certainly help me field any questions, if any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mamokwe. I think we've all enjoyed listening to you very much. So, and I think very, very insightful. Also putting the provincial overview up first, and then looking at those two sort of bellwether municipalities, one that's in a lot of trouble and one that is sort of in danger of slipping. And very, very interesting to hear the insights there. So, colleagues, I am going to, because we have some very important and busy people here, break at 11 o'clock. It's 10:15 now. So we'll have an opportunity now for questions and answers. I know members are probably very eager to ask questions. We also have the chairperson of finance, Mr. Leon van Wyk. We will then get into those questions now, and I'll open up for the first round. Member Vessels online, if you wish to ask a question, also please feel free to raise your hand and we will get to you once we have got to the members in the committee room. I see first up we have Member van Wyk, then we have Member Masipa, and then Member Stoffel. We'll do rounds of 3. So Member van Wyk first.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I think, it's obviously very valuable that AG does come to brief us. And I think the big question at the end of the day is, what do we do about this situation? Because it's not only something that is evident here in the Western Cape. I think we sit with this problem with local government across the country. And I guess if we go through the various scenarios, we're talking about white paper in local government and a review stage. And I took a read of white paper last year, and then you read through this, I don't know if one must call it a tragic story of virtually nothing being done over the long history of local government over the last almost 30 years, and everybody recognizing there are issues that need to be tackled, and then they don't get tackled. And then one needs to ask yourself, where are we now? And at Finance Committee just a short while ago, some of the colleagues asked a very valid question. Should we not be calling people like National Treasury and probably yourselves as AG to committee to start asking the questions, what should actually be done? Because seemingly in terms of legislation and whatever actions that are taking place, we have a continuation of the culprits just doing what they want to do. In Afrikaans, I think there's a nice word, moetswilligheid. And I think Kannaland was the one particular issue that was mentioned, because Finance Committee dealt with the financial recovery plans and the status and the progress that is being made there. Now, that's all good and well, but you still have, in the case of Kannaland, a council that seems to be quite happy with a situation where I think they were talking about 49% of their budget goes on salaries. And then you have political appointees within that who are still being paid overtime as well. And what do we do to stop this strain? Because there doesn't seem to be a willingness from a council point of view to be accountable. And ultimately, to me, the only way we're going to stop the train is either we've got to change legislation very quickly, but then it's really enforcement, because we've got to have actual examples that are that do take place and are shown to be those examples, because it's only when some municipalities are held up, and if it is councillors that are the problem, or it's officials that are problem, that they have to bear the consequences. And I think, unfortunately, in this country, we're going to need more than one example before the penny, in fact, drops, that we are realistic. Because, it's all, to me, it's all good and well and important that the AG indicates harms, that these are the harms that are being done. But, something needs to be dealt with there. And I suppose what we ask ourselves sitting at provincial level is what can we do, and how does one do it a lot more realistically, or that something takes place. And given what appears to remain the level of limitations that there are, it becomes extremely difficult. And it certainly would appear that putting a municipality under administration seems to be a tortuous path that almost needs to be followed, and an uncertain path without that level of rapid clarity. Because to me, we should not be allowing it to continue. And the big concern that we have, and I think we've seen it here in both in water in both of these municipalities, the entire local government system has suffered over the last 15 years because we had electricity increases which were taking, that was the flavor of the month, or that was the reality that needed to be dealt with. And within local government, municipalities then had difficulty in increasing other tariffs to address the aging infrastructure, in particular water and sanitation, because your consumer, your customer, just could not bear anything more. And to me, the crisis has now arrived in terms of water. And we don't talk about sanitation very often, but sanitation, the risk on the sewage systems is possibly even more dangerous than what we have in water. And we have, if we turn to the Knysna situation, this has been, you've seen a council that seems to have an inability to make those decisions that they need to deal with the water. And something else has to happen within the system. Either provincial government, it must become very clear and a lot more specific as to what must be done. And we are running into a local government election. And from what I read, we also have uncertainty as to whether amendments are going to be made in time for those local government elections. And I'm perhaps talking a little bit long, but I think there are numerous issues that we are touching on here that somehow we need to find solutions. And I think we probably also looking at that level of guidance and how can we be assisted in work that we're undertaking. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you, Member Van Wyk. Member Masipa?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the AG this briefing. Chair, I think 2018, we got excited when the AG, indicated that, the AG has been empowered now to issue a certificate of debt, And I was listening to AG's, presentation with regards to what's happening in Kanaland and what's happening in Knysna, and the changes that has been happening, and that is not really assisted in terms of running a successful, municipal operations as such. And I think the question really from my side is that, has there been really a certificate of debt issued to all those that were really accounting officers that led to the, the situation that we experience in there? The second question, Chair, relates to the clean audit. The AG indicated that, clean audits must translate to service delivery. And in some instances, it's a clean audit, but it's not really translating to service delivery. And I think I put this question before and the proposal to it to say, allocation of municipalities and provinces are limited. You can only do X, Y, Z. You can't really stretch beyond that. And these are some of the areas that I believe, Chair, that AG has got a role in terms of reporting, because, infrastructure age because you don't have the capacity to actually be able to fund and to do the work that needs to be done. But it doesn't mean that the entity is not really operating effectively. And I think the question is, how do you then as AG help us elevate this kind of conversation in terms of the allocation? Because key is that AG, I mean, you can do only so much. And then now people are marching the street, they say they're not receiving the service delivery and so on and so on. And they base this on the government, that is doing everything with whatever that it has got. And I can use the city of Cape Town as an example, doing whatever that they can with what the little that they have. And then now at the end of the day, it's a clean service delivery, it's a clean audit, but the service delivery could reach only this limited because of the funding that they are receiving. So I think really the question is, how does the AG assist us? Because we raised this, we have got, several, the communication with National Treasury and everyone else. But I think the question is, how does the AG assist us as parliamentarians in raising these issues? And I'm putting it to the AG as well to really respond to it. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Member Masipa. AG, you got your work cut out for you today in terms of responding to questions. Member Stoffel as the last one for this round.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much for the presentation. And welcome in Western Cape. Chair, mine is, let me start with Ghanaland. By the way, I'm staying in Ghanaland. Just take note of that. I want to check in terms of the history of Ghanaland when it started to the management of Ghanaland. It's quite very interesting, whereby it led me to a question to say, Ghanaland in 2022 or 2021 was at some stage, you must correct me, AG, at some stage was being managed by a consultant or sent by the province. And I'm not sure whether that report was ever been tabled of Ghanaland. Because I think that report for this committee is very important. Because there was a provincial intervention. And we never had anything about that report. And I think in that report, a lot of things went wrong in that report. So there's a need for this committee to take it. If I don't want to take it further down, but I think that report for me is critical to have a better understanding where Ghanaland is today. And maybe the AG can assist us there. Then in terms of the audit committee, I'm worried, very worried then, if there's no internal audit committee. Because that committee is very crucial in highlighting to the municipal manager and also the CFO to say, now we are in the red area. Now, if those kind of committees doesn't exist or are not proper established, then we've got a crisis. So, but from the AG side, in terms of timelines for that specific audit committee, because it will be not justifiable for the AG to say at the end of the day, but this issue should be addressed, whilst the lifespan of that municipality is depending on that audit committee. There should be a timeline for that municipality to say within the next 3 months or within the next 4 months, there should be a committee. Then I go further in terms of the findings. I want to check with the audit committee to say, because I fear a situation whereby municipal managers will say they are being targeted, whilst this is not the scenario. There's a lot of municipalities in yellow. Does that mean, except for Naisna and except for Kanaland, that municipality is on a safe way? But why it was never been mentioned here? Because I don't want tomorrow to say this committee is targeting Naisna, is targeting Kanaland, as if there's a witch hunting now. No. When the municipality is in yellow, we should mention and say, here is the municipalities. They are also in danger as much as Naisna is. Then we go to the challenges mentioned within Kanaland. Some of the issues mentioned is historical, especially when it comes to infrastructure. We all know we are sitting with a water crisis, and both the municipalities are facing that challenge with the water. And here, with the report that we are been given by the AG, there's mentioned by this contributed to the non-compliance, to the some of these shortcomings within the municipality. Now, mine is to say, will we then evaluate that municipality based on the challenge or based on the non-compliance? Because they are sitting with a problem of infrastructure, and that infrastructure caused this problem. Intervention has been given. Do we monitor? And after, I believe this is audit of 2024, 2023 and 2024. No, 2024 and 2025. Okay. Now, the intervention of Naisna, was it after the audit or before the audit? Because I believe if it was before the if it was after the audit, obvious improvements is there, obvious. But my worry will be if these findings is before. You see? So I wanted to be clear.
Sorry, Member Sub, just to clarify, which intervention are you referring to? Just
the one that has been given now
okay
by the province and national.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So obviously not the administration that was attempted, that was blocked, not that one. You're talking about a separate intervention.
No. There was an administrative problem. Remember?
Yes.
Management problem.
Yes, yeah.
And then the province tackled that together with national.
Yeah.
And with the water crisis also.
Yes. I'm talking about the water crisis issue.
Yes.
Okay. What? Sorry,
Yes,
just
yes,
to clarify. Okay,
yes.
not the financial one. Okay.
Yes. And if you listen to the report, it made mention of the water leakages, the water infrastructure, and all those kind of things. But I want to cut matters short, Chair. My last question is that, and I want to know from the AG. AG, if you work with an unfunded budget, will it possible for you to serve your community? How did it get to an unfunded budget? I think the question lies there. How did that municipality get to an unfunded budget? And then Tina, we still expected that municipality to function as a normal municipality. So I will pause for now there.
Thank you very much, Member Stoffel. Mr. Mamokge and your team, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, like the members want me to earn my salary today. But I'm more than ready to do that. And thank you for the question. We truly appreciate them. Really, when we come to these platforms, we come to share what we found in the audit processes and the outcomes of that. But we also come to take lessons as well and to collaborate on solutions, and to strengthen some of the recommendations that we also make to our municipalities. So really, this conversation for us is really important as well. So when we do respond, we don't respond because we got the answers necessarily, but we respond in an attempt to collaborate and co-create a solution for a bigger problem that is complex, for all of us to get closer to services, of communities and having an impact in the lives of the people of the province. So I'll start with Honorable Leon van Wyk's question, which is really a question, and when I get to the bottom of it, it's what must be done, and because this problem seems to one be increasing on an ongoing basis, you know. And it's a problem that certainly, of course, you're leaning towards enforcement in your question as well, to say, maybe, there should be stronger enforcement. So as the Office of the AGSA, we have taken a position around how we will firstly respond to those type of questions. Our first port of call is to say what is within our mandate as the Office of the AGSA that we are able to do in that space. And of course, our mandate is to audit, report, and provide you with an independent assurance on some of the issues that we've picked up in the municipalities. And then we then asked ourselves, and if you can go to that accountability ecosystem, to say everyone then here certainly also have a role to play. And in developing, I mean, our legislative system in the country and our legislative governance, sort of framework for local government specifically, surely somewhere these accountability people should be effective. And if they're effective, we should get an answer there. And particularly for provincial legislatures, if you look at MFMA section 71.7, is a report that comes to the legislatures. We often ask ourselves to say, when these reports come, what are the type of questions in here, leave the audit process, in here that the legislatures are asking those municipalities? And should that not speak then to the credibility of managing a budget in that municipality? The auditor is not there yet, It's still the legislatures getting a report from the MEC of Finance about certain things in that municipality that us as auditors in our mandate, in the work that we do, we're only going to pick up when the event has already happened and way in the lifespan of that problem, if there is a problem. Simple thing, when an expenditure has been made by a municipality and you get it in that section 71.7 report, the question to ask to say, who are the suppliers? Was the process up to scratch? Will stop us maybe picking up irregular expenditure when we come, picking up instances of where there was no procurement and contract management that was not properly, adequately, but that's within your responsibilities and not necessarily an audit process. We come later in the process. So the second one is, there's also this section 47 reports by the MEC of local government that must come, to the house. Certainly information is there as well. How is this report being used by the committees to make sure that we work, towards making sure that we keep municipalities accountable, obviously through the MEC of local government. And lastly, I just want to talk about the fact that there's a report I think that we spoke about in our call to action 131 as well, that speaks about, how municipalities are cost correcting their findings by the AGSA. And lastly, the mayors themselves in their annual report must include corrective action to anything, whether they didn't achieve a target, whether they didn't achieve certain things, how they're going to correct those type of things. So there's that system that we align ourselves towards, Honorable Van Wyk, in that we say, if we start there, I can tell you now there are gaps in the system. There are gaps in these reports. There are gaps in certainly in how we see members of the legislature engaging with those reports, and sometimes not even only in the Western Cape, where we can also see these reports only get to be tabled or noted, but there was never an engagement with this report to say what is underpinning these reports, and that is certainly what we're driving members of the legislatures to actually do. And maybe there lies a silver lining for us to say, once this thing has properly been ventilated and we've tried our best, should then there be a legislative reform? Because that is where we're going with the white paper, and certainly, I mean, it's a good space to go and check that. But if we're not effective in properly implementing the current legislation as it stands, are we really at liberty to say it's ineffective? That's my question. Of course, there's been other indicators here. We can go through that rabbit hole, certainly, but that's not where we, as the AGSA, want to go into. Where we're saying is to say, within the current legislations, as it stands, there's surely areas that we can strengthen. And those areas, for this committee specifically, we speak to section 71.7 and say, maybe look at that and how effectively using that report. We're talking to section 47 of the Municipal Structures Act to say, maybe look at that report as well and how effectively you're using that report. We're saying there is another report, 131, that needs to be tabled by the Minister of Local Government, that also certainly look at whether it gets to be tabled and how effectively that report gets to be engaged with by the members of the legislature. So that's how we align ourselves as the Office of the AGSA when it comes to questions like that. Of course, the future is something that we believe that can be co-created by all the stakeholders, members of the public participating in that reform. But the state as it is now calls for all of us to go and check what the legislation gives us powers to do, and do that for now. For as long as then the legislation will be corrected moving forward, and that's what we certainly align ourselves to say. So that is the question. I just wanted maybe to answer in that format. Maybe Honorable Masipai, to your question around the certificate of debt. So the certificate of debt in the country, we've issued I think one certificate of debt in another province, and not in the Western Cape. Let me not mention the provinces, but it was in the news, in the public, in the Northwest. And so that's our first certificate of debt. I think maybe what I want to paint with the process of material irregularities before I get to a certificate of debt. It's a process that is firstly legal by its very nature. If you're going to put an obligation and say you need to pay this much money, I mean, it's a legal process for me to be able to get there first and foremost. So it does take a legal course, a legal process. I mean, I need to give you a right to respond. I need to make sure that your right is properly, that whole process that you need to follow to make sure that by the time I give you a certificate of debt, we have checked all the boxes. So it takes a bit of time. And it doesn't basically just get there. because the second part of it is in the process as well, we involve all the various stakeholders. So if it was the municipal manager that had a problem, we look to the mayor to say, go and intervene. And if you say go and intervene and just correct that, maybe follow disciplinary processes, whatever, try to recover the money, whatever it is, we give the mayor, in this instance, an opportunity to go and do that. That takes time, because if I give you an opportunity to say, we have identified a material irregularity, please, Honorable Mayor, go and intervene and make sure that you course correct that situation. We give you time. That time lapses. If that time lapses, then we raise it to the next level, whether it's an MEC, whatever, or the committee such as yourself, to say, go and assist the municipality deal with this thing. Once we have exhausted that, only then do we go get to a last resort of certificate of debt. So I guess the process in itself and how it plays out in the regulations of our Public Auditors Act, it's actually, it also gives an opportunity for various things to happen. What happens in between from the office of the AGSA is certainly we'll come up with, we'll write recommendations that are binding in the, and remedial action that is binding in the auditor's report. So in the year one, if you see this mayor is not doing something, we write recommendations in the auditor's report. In year two, we write binding remedial action. Then when that is not done, then we go to another stage of then issuing that certificate of debt, having exhausted what our regulations requires of us to do before we can get to a certificate of debt. So yes, we have gotten there in one of those municipalities. Certainly in the province, we haven't gotten there yet. It's a process that, I mean, there's recommendations that we've raised in auditors' reports. So we are following the process. And I guess if there's no swift action that is being taken by these by the leaders in these respective municipalities, we might find ourselves at a certificate of debt. But the point is, if we get to a certificate of debt, it means the system has failed. It's not something to celebrate. That is our point, is that a certificate of debt means a mayor failed to do something, an MEC failed to do something, somebody failed to do something. So for us, we don't aspire for certificate of debt. Yes, we have these powers and we do exercise them very cautiously and very responsibly as an audit office. But it's not something for us to celebrate if a municipality gets a certificate of debt. Yes, it means we got there, we exercised our powers, we've enforced. Yes, okay, we've done what we're supposed to do. But there are other people in the accountability ecosystem. Can they be effective too? And in that, then we can celebrate to say that mayor dealt with a problem when we identified it. Not that it waited for the auditor general, which is the last person in the ecosystem, to do something about it. So for us, that's that's our posture with these tools. We see that as a tool that we can use in our toolbox to get the system to be effective, but we don't see it as the ultimate tool that ought to be there. We do believe that there are other role players just that should take that should also do the work that they need to do. And then there was a question, I think, as well around clean audits, and whether the clean audits translate, to services, and I guess the proposal around the funding. Again, in a question like that, we always lean to our mandate, and our mandate starts after all the legislatures have approved budgets, they have approved the laws, they have approved the regulations. Then we take over from there to say we are auditing against that which has been approved. So if there is something within the legislation, whether it's about how National Treasury calculates the equitable share to those municipalities, and it's a legislative process, we can't get involved there as an office of the AGSA. We only get involved once that money has been dispensed to that municipality for us then to be able to audit it against the budget. So that model, and I hear where you're going with this model around, maybe this municipality will never have the financial muscle to deliver on the services, because just how the modalities of calculating a of the financial or the equitable financial thing that goes to that municipality is maybe disadvantaging in itself to that municipality. So I hear the question and the concern, but in our view, then based on our mandate, it's not even our view, just our mandate does not allow us to go and dictate to the National Treasury, to dictate to the legislatures how to determine a framework to provide for money. If there are gaps in that framework, ours is to um, in our discussions with National Treasury, just to mention to say, some of the municipalities are struggling because of A, B, C, D, or this is what we see in the financial health of those municipalities, and these are the root causes for that. But we can never dictate how then those legislatures and those certainly decide on how to allocate funds. But I hear the concern. I mean, it's not the first time. I mean, we had the conversation with the MEC of Finance, and that was one. I remember when Honorable Deirdre like first stepped into office. That was one of the first things that she had a question around to say, how do we then audit how the fiscus gets to be dispensed? I mean, around looking at even the population, the migration into the province and so forth, and those type of other things, do we really account for the rent? We hear the concern, but it's not for us to solve. It's for other bodies to solve that concern. Okay. All right. And then, like I said, let me just take a step of what I have. I think actually maybe on this one you guys might need to help me on the history of Ghanaland and the report of Ghanaland at a given time to give us a responsibility to maybe see where some of these problems emanated from. I think I note that to say, was there a report? Was that report tabled with you as members? I mean, of that intervention. Was there an administration period? I would not be really, I will not know the details of that. But if there is a provincial report, I do believe the committee would be at liberty to get that report, and I would put it to the committee then to consider receiving that report if there is such a report. The issue of the audit committee, and I think we share the same worry on Honorable Stoffel around the effectiveness of that audit committee and whether that audit committee should be established. But we believe that the council is the one that appoints the audit committee. So if the council does not put the timeline to say this is when we're going to appoint this audit committee, this is when they must be on the ground, then there's a problem. The municipal manager certainly can assist in appointing more people for audit committees. I mean, for internal audit, I beg your pardon. But currently, if you look at the establishment of Ghanaland and whether that establishment can and their salary bill can withstand additional people. I think we just mentioned now 49% already goes to paying salaries. Now, are you going to increase the establishment to get more internal auditors to do internal work of people that ought to have done work properly anyway to start with? Now you're going to hire more police to look after them. So maybe it's a complex problem that we need to think about carefully. And what we've been suggesting as the Office of the Auditor General is to say, these municipalities don't exist there in their own dark corner, right? They are neighboring municipalities with effective internal controls, with effective audit committees. What is stopping us to having shared services? Certainly with the likes of municipalities that are around there and assist. Because if the municipality around you have been getting clean audits, and they have an effective internal audit space and they have an effective audit committee, surely you can borrow on those good practices and then strengthen your own while you're still building your own capacity and trying to sort out your own house. So I do believe that's a solution that can be thrown into the space, into the system, certainly to assist there. But I hear your concern. we are heading to getting financial statements in end of August. The financial year is ending now, end of this month, end of June. Surely you need those checks and balances now in that municipality to make sure that by the time we get there in the time, then there's been some forward movement in those municipalities. And Laura, then there was a question around those in the yellow zone, and if Naisna is the only one in the yellow zone, and certainly trying to target. From our side as the office of the EGSA, we're not targeting any municipality. We got a response, what is it? An invite to discuss those two specifically. We are responding to the invite on those two specifically, but we also made effort in our presentation to make sure that we cover all, to make sure that we cover we start with the province and to indicate that there's 4 yellow ones, and then there was 2 specific ones that the committee wanted to discuss specifically. So we got that invite and we responded to that invite, honorable member, and that is why there was no target from our side, please. And then the last part, I guess, was the challenges still, being historic in Ghanaland, honorable member, and the infrastructure challenges, as well as the intervention, whether it was after or before. I think for us it was always after. I think you were correct in indicating that it was after. So it was after in that sense, that we did that. But yeah. The unfunded budget.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Member
Yes.
Stoffel? Member Stoffel? Sorry, Member Stoffel. You can just speak through me, just so we can have one meeting. No worries. Yes, carry on.
Yeah, no. She just reminded me on the unfunded budget, Chair, and through you, so that I don't make the same mistake. The unfunded budget, of course, like for us, we've had long conversations with Provincial Treasury as well, in terms of their interventions on the unfunded budget, Chair, and the work that they do on the unfunded budget and strengthening that arm to make sure that municipalities gets to have funded budgets. It becomes difficult, of course, to operate with an unfunded budget in terms of where is the rest of the money going to come from for you to be able to effectively provide services with that type of budget. So yeah, that is my contribution towards that question. But certainly, thank you so much for the question.
Thanks very much. Just, Member Stoffel, just by way of information in terms of the genesis of this presentation. So we had a separate, smaller presentation to myself, I think Member van Wyk, and some of the other members on the overall AG internal findings. I requested that they present to our committee as well, so that everybody's able to get an appraisal. And 2 of the municipalities that we have discussed at great length have been Knysna and Cunnaland. So that's why we focused in on them. But there has been a overall presentation on all of the others as well. And I think some of the issues were raised even in City of Cape Town and some of the others. So I think it's good for us to get that. And we obviously can't do detailed deep dives on all 30. So that's part of the reason why. But I assume Member Marais, you'd also like to have a say. And I see Member Masipa's got a follow-up. Just from my side, I think the point that was raised around the certificate of debt, and I fully agree with you. We shouldn't be celebrating issuing certificates of debt. But I would disagree when you say that that would suggest the system has failed. I would say it's not the system; it's leadership that's failed, whether that be political leadership or municipal leadership. That's the challenge, because one doesn't want to go and amend legislation to account for poor performance. If you look at your budget donut, for instance, and you put that 70% of the one municipality and the other 28%, that's 98% is between qualified with findings and clean. It's the tiny little percent that's left over, which is the challenge, and one doesn't want to have to change the entire system. What we want to do is try and address those issues, and I think some of the information you've provided us today will possibly help us to make some recommendations in terms of that. I also want to share the concern of Member Stoffel around the internal audit challenges, in particular with Canaland. But just to be a little bit more specific, I mean, you mentioned there's only one internal auditor, and that person doesn't actually have the relevant qualifications. That's a serious concern. How do we go about employing somebody under the, I don't know if it's the MFMA or what piece of legislation it would be, who doesn't have those qualifications? I mean, surely that needs to be looked into. But at the same time, this was something that we identified when we were in Beaufort West, is it is particularly difficult to attract, and this is not meant as any disrespect to the people at those municipalities, but it is more difficult to attract a high caliber of individual to some of these more rural, far-flung areas in terms of employment. So, how does one go about resolving that? I think that's maybe not a question only for you to provide a suggestion on. I'm sure it's for leadership in general. And then, yeah, I mean, it was very heartening to, when you looked at the ones that went up and the ones that went down, to see Beaufort West moving up. I know there's been a lot of work there that's been put in. Also Cederberg and Oudtshoorn. And we'll definitely keep an eye on the other ones that have dropped, B2, Prince Albert, and City of Cape Town. Even though these are relatively minor drops, to see B2 and Prince Albert dropping further, I think is particularly a concern. So I think it's important for us maybe to have a follow up at some stage on those. Consequence management, very, very important one as well. And thank you for raising that. That seems to be a real challenge, not just in terms of identifying individuals who may be holding up processes, but the process of actually trying to resolve those issues and long-standing labor disputes, etc. I know that is particularly problematic. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to give Member Marais opportunity first. Then, if there are any follow-ups, I saw Member Masipa had his hand up. And Member Stoffel, Member Marais, and then Member Van Wyk. I'll see how we go in terms of time by the time we get there, and then maybe we can include yours as well. Member Marais.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the AG. Mr. Chair, many of my questions have been answered already, but I want to raise just two matters. The one concern is, as you've spoken about the certificate of debt, I think in instances in terms of the MFMA, where there is deliberate action or negligence have been established in the incurrence of unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, then there is an obligation attached to that. And I think it's important that, yes, we don't necessarily want to go that route, but if there is certain powers given to us in terms of legislation, it's there for a purpose. And I think especially in keeping a timeline in mind as well, that just justifies that type of action. And I think that is, for me, something that must seriously be considered. I know you mentioned there was only one municipality, but I think if we look just from an overview of over all municipalities, it certainly warrants that more must be done. On the other issue, I'm looking for solutions. I think we all are looking for solutions, but I wanted to ask the AG in terms of improving the audit outcomes of municipalities. Do you think digitizing certain processes, especially when it comes to procurement and contracts, proof of expense or whatever, do you think the digitized process could help improve the audit outcomes of municipalities? If we're very paper-based, allows for a lot of, I think, mistakes or overlook certain things. But perhaps you can respond to us in terms of that, whether that could help municipalities improve their audit outcomes. Mr. Chair, I'm going to leave it for there. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Member Masipa. Colleagues, I just want to ask if possible, it's 11:05. We can break at 15:15, which is in 10 minutes time. So if you can just try, if possible, try keep your questions short and succinct so that we can get the answers as well in time.
Chair, yeah, I'll try, but this is not meant to be really disrespect of you, Chair. But I think it's very important to do a follow-up on the question, because my question of the clean audit was raised as a result of the AG indicating that clean audit should, we should not just take clean audit, because if it's a clean audit and it doesn't address, the service delivery, then what is the use for the clean audits? And I'm raising this because I think I will be raising this again when the AG appear before us. Because if there is a duty that you obviously, can, assist in terms of raising this issue of saying that, the allocation of funding is insufficient, I think that we will definitely call on you. Remember, our duty is oversight. We conduct oversight. That's our duty. And we make recommendations. And part of this that we are doing, we are making recommendations, and is within our ambit as the oversight body. And on the issue that you mentioned about the certificate, and I think the chair covered me quite well in terms of saying that it cannot be the system that failed. We've got accounting officers in our government system. And it says here, I just Googled, accounting officers, core roles and responsibilities, financial management, asset and liability management, supply chain management, consequence management. It is the duty of the, obviously the AG. If they find that this, accounting officers are not doing their duties, then they must be. But maybe, Chair, we can also, look at if AG believe that maybe we need to amend the elements of the Municipal Financial Act, because in section 138, it talks about the criteria for determining serious financial problems. If we need to add that, what the AG has, maybe that's the area that we need to go and to amend, to actually not amend, but to add that, to get to quicker to the, certificate of debt, then we need to add it, because I can, going through all this serious financial management, I don't see it indicating that there is obviously a need for certificate. If it reaches this stage, then there is a need for certificate of debt. So that's my follow-up, Chair. I end up there. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Stoffel. Follow-up.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I want to go straight to page 7, the root causes, the Kanaland. I just want to check with the AG. They have mentioned there the root causes, but I want them to be very much specific when it comes to the SALGA appointment with the consultant. Are we referring now to the province, or are we referring at a national level? And if we are referring at a national level, remember, in terms of the auditing, there is stages. You've got your local stage, you've got your provincial stage, you've got your national stage. Now, I want to know, within these root causes of, is there a collaboration with this outcome, with the provincial outcome? Because the provincial outcome have a financial recovery plan for the same problems. And what is that? Is it correlation? Oh, yes. What is, because there's a different view. And we must take note of that. Because in the provincial one, it shows improvement. But if you come to the AG's one, it's our dysfunctional municipality. So where are we standing with this municipality? Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Mims.
And sorry, Chair, may I? And then I want to check with the AG. When it comes to clean audits, it's good, it's beautiful. We want clean audits in the province because that's what we stand for in the Western Cape as this government. But we are also concerned about the same audits that doesn't speak to the IDP of a municipality. How can you get a clean audit while the jury surround you? There's a lot of corruption outlined. I hear what you are saying to say your mandate. But within your scope, you will find that your mandate include a certain portion of that same problem. And at a later stage, you find yourself, you find the same problem that you have audited in the Western Cape, maybe, on the news. And here you declared a clean audit. How does this thing balance each other out? Because to me, it doesn't make sense. You go to your IDP, you find half of the IDP is not being implemented, and that specific municipality is getting a clean audit, which means it's for me, please don't misquote me, please, and don't judge me. For me, it goes to that word that it's saying it's a tick box. Because there's no way you can have a service delivery problem at the other hand, and the other hand, the municipality is getting a clean audit. It doesn't make sense. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Member Stoffel. Member Masipa, won't you just pop your mic off there?
Oh, sorry.
And it's all good. Member Van Beek, can I trust you to be succinct?
Yeah. I'll be very succinct. I think I want to thank you for those comments in terms of the legislation and what can be done there, because I think that is also a valuable tool. However, you know, a number of these municipalities that we're looking at are repeat offenders. And maybe we will start looking at similar to football. I don't really want to say rugby, where you start issuing yellow cards and then it becomes a red card. And one gets to that point on what it is, the council is gone. You know, that it becomes like there are certain triggers that if they are not followed, then that is the end of that council.
Thanks, Member Van Beek. Yeah, just to take your metaphor a bit further, we've already seen the promotion and relegation table. So, yeah, maybe it's time for cards. Okay, over to you. And I think after that, we'll probably have exhausted questions. So, okay. Yeah, if you want to add anything else at the end, you're also more than welcome to.
No problem, Chair. Yeah. Maybe let me try also be quick. I think, Chair, I'll start with your comments. Certainly, not to be misquoted around the system. I don't mean the whole system of government. The comment was geared towards the political leadership and as well as the leadership of the the accountability system, basically. Yeah, and not the system of government. So that's not certainly what we meant there. And we do we do agree, and maybe in answering the question around the certificate of debt, I'll cover a few members. The aspect that you're quoting out of the MFMA, Honorable Mare, is the one where it says when there is a transgression, there's a responsibility to investigate. be it the transgression being in irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, unauthorized expenditure. You have a responsibility as the municipality, all right? And that responsibility, of course, lies with the accounting officer or the municipal manager to investigate. That investigation needs to look at certain things. Needs to look at whether this person, there was delivery on the ground, there was anyone responsible, and there's possibility of recovery. So those are the three areas that you look at. So that in itself is a responsibility of the accounting officer. And what we say at the Office of the EJSA, which is a separate certificate of debt process from the Auditor General's process. So we are saying our process should never replace that. It's not meant to replace that. And I agree with you that those people that have got a responsibility to still continue doing their day-to-day job should. And their day-to-day job is that if there's a transgression, you have a responsibility to investigate. And in your investigation, you have a responsibility to establish certain things. And one of those things that you need to establish is whether there's a responsibility to recover, whether there's a responsibility to see if the services on the ground and if you should be keeping anyone accountable, including disciplinary action and. So that is the responsibility of the accounting officer. And our process, as outlined in the Public Auditors Act, does not replace what is sitting in that MFMA. The MFMA as it is should still be implemented. And therein lies where the problem is, Chair. Because what we see, a municipal manager should have gone through that process and should have actual fact on their own accord, as empowered by the legislation, should have still gone and recovered that money. And it didn't happen. Then what happens? The office of the AGSA comes, identify it as a problem, and lifts the problem up, and then now we are left to then follow the process as a secondary step and never the primary step. And we are at pains at making that point. And the point that we make is that those that have got a responsibility and the powers and the role and the mandate that is sitting in that legislation that you are reading out should do exactly what is sitting in that legislation. When we come empowered by the Public Auditors Act, we come as a supplementary process to already what is sitting in that MFMA space. So of course you're correct. The process to get people to repay the money, whatever it is that you can lift up, lies with the municipality before we come. We come at a second, and maybe it answers you to Honorable Masipa in that sense, because I think there's a system that is there, and then there's an audit system. And the system that is there is also built in such a way that if there's money lost in the system, the accounting officer then is empowered to recover that money. And if the accounting officer was the one that was involved in the transgression, then there's the mayor and the disciplinary boards in municipalities are empowered to then follow a process to recover that money. So there is a recovery process already built within the MFMA. Our recovery process is a different process that supports that which has already been established. So maybe there is that as well, to say in your and that's a solution as well to you that we offer, to say in your process, when you question, you need to also consistently question, what did you do as empowered by the legislation, Mr. Municipal Manager, to recover that money? And that question then not necessarily only be not be posed to the AGSA, because we come secondary to already an established process. And that's what we believe, that there's still elements of the system that should be strengthened in that way. And I hope I covered it sufficiently. And then I think the issue around internal audit and qualifications, I mean, for us, if there's an employment contract, it's signed, and this person has been duly appointed in the municipality, we can only lift and raise the challenge to say there's a gap in the qualification and But it's for the municipality then to work towards either empowering that person through training, interventions, making sure that the person gets to get the right qualification. That's one area, a solution that we can potential, and capacitating the municipality. I think we've seen interventions where, qualified internal auditors from the province gets to be partnered with that person, and there can be that type of intervention. But there's also can be an intervention where, in like I've said, internal auditors that are within the demarcation of that district can support the municipality as well from a district point of view. And so that is also something that you can look at. But I think the system, I don't want, maybe it's a structural issue around how then do you empower that structure to have the people with the right qualification. It's a conversation that then happens as a subsequent conversation moving forward. And the issue around the digitization, yes, definitely. I think we raising it on an ongoing basis, Honorable Maria, to say, digitizing processes makes it makes it easy to audit even from our side. As the Office of the AGSA, we're trying to also upgrade our own audit softwares to make sure that we are more receptive to digitized processes on the other side of our audit process, to be more efficient as well in how we do the work, because in our work as well attracts cost. So we try to also make sure that we save the fiscus some money by being more efficient in how we do our work. So definitely the answer is definitely digitization of processes and systems is important. What we've seen in pockets where there's been processes that are being digitized is the strong alignment of those digitized processes to legislation. So in doing so, we should also be cautious in making sure that we still comply with the required laws and regulations and the requirements of the legislation. So that is the one area that we've seen that sometimes then there's no strength in this thing. I think, Chair, from your questions, I think I've covered, except to say that the others were just you, just acknowledging that there will be more conversations amongst ourselves. And then there was an issue of consequence management, which is also something that we strongly align ourselves to say it must be there in the system. And I think I've answered both of Honorable Maria's questions, one on the certificate of debt and the one on the digitization. I think Honorable Masipa's question around the clean audits and there's certainly where we get an opportunity to talk about improvements we do. I think maybe take that from us. But the one aspect that I wanted to just share with you is that we believe that a clean audit is a foundation for good governance. How we put it, we say it's good administration is a good foundation for good governance, because certainly in our history of looking at audits, Honorable Chair, and auditing in the municipality, and maybe to Honorable Stoffel's question as well, we've not seen a disclaimer of municipality that has got effective service delivery. So flip the script around and say, have I seen a disclaimer municipality that has got effective service delivery? We haven't. So we know for sure that clean audits are a good foundation for good service delivery. There is that correlation, because on the other side, we know that a qualified audit opinion has never produced effective service delivery. But we've seen clean audits that produce a foundation for good service delivery. So there is that thing to say, as much as we don't want to say there is a direct correlation, we say there's a foundation for a good service delivery, because we didn't see any disclaimer that has given us good service delivery on the other side. So that maybe that answered your question as well, both Mr. Honorable Masipa and Honorable Stoffel, Chair. So audits for us and are not a tick box. a fundamental entry to good service delivery. So we take exception to it being a clean tick box. Is not. It is definitely a good standpoint to that. And I guess the root cause question, which is the last question that I guess I can attempt to answer, unless my colleagues have missed anything. Um, um, the intervention was a national saga, and of course the RFA came after the audit, so we already concluded then the improvements you'll see if it's moving forward, and that is why when the RFA came. But what I wanted to talk about is, you know, part of what makes interventions ineffective that we've seen in many years of looking at audits is that there comes someone, Salga, they bring and they throw resources. And then there comes somebody else, they throw resources. They come, but there's not an effective coordination of all of this. So let's be wary in what we also put as solutions to these municipalities, because as this committee, you might suggest something while somebody else is doing something else. So we need to make sure that in these municipalities, there's also a coordinated effort in the intervention itself, so that there's no pulling in different directions and then we end up with a product that we all were not envisaging or hoping for. So that is also something that we must be wary of, because we have also seen where the various stakeholders come and try and assist the municipality. It then is not coordinated and does not end up with the intended outcome for all the stakeholders. I don't know if I've covered everything, Mr. H and Liesel. With that said, then, Chair, City Klim Shelele.
Thank you very much, sir, to you and your team. I see we have gone a little bit over time, but I think it's been worthwhile. Just to note, I know there's another member online who's joined. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to take that question, member Nkondo. I wasn't actually aware that you were joining online. I was only made aware of member Vessels. So, but you can certainly participate in the meeting going forward. But we are unfortunately going to have to cut it there in terms of questions, as agreed. Thank you, AG, to you and your team for coming along. And if there are any further questions, members, I'm sure, are able to perhaps send those through, and we can facilitate that. If there is anything specific, we can definitely keep those channels open. And we'll also later on in our meeting, when we get to our actions and resolutions, make some recommendations. And I know that the members will then also be given an opportunity to engage in that. So thank you very much, members. We will break. Let's try and make it sort of 10 minutes max so that we can get on to the next set of presentations. Our other officials will be arriving very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
We're going to start in 3 minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody, after that brief little tea and snack break. So we're now going to move into the second short part of our meeting, which is our deliberation on the Western Cape Land Use Planning Amendment Bill. You'll remember this item came to us a couple of weeks back, and we had some advice from Ms. Kule, our legal advisor, that she had one or two concerns that she wanted to alert us to. That legal opinion was then sent through to the department and to all members of the committee. The department has since responded, and all members of the committee have been sent in well in advance both the legal opinion, the original legal opinion, plus an annexure sort of document, and then also the responses from the department in detail as to that. So I'm going to take that as read, and that all members have had an opportunity to peruse that and go through it. We have had ample time to do so. And what I'm then going to do is open up to members. We also still have member Vessels online. So the members present here and member Vessels online. I see member Nkondo is no longer online, so it is member Vessels as a member of the committee as well. If you have any questions on either the legal opinion or the responses from the department before we move to the next phase. Is there any questions or points anyone would like to raise? Member Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I just want to understand the process that you are going to conduct now. You have indicated that we've received the legal opinion of the legal advisor allocated to this portfolio, to this committee. I want to understand the legal opinion that is now before us to answer the concerns that were raised by our legal advisor. And I wanted to also understand there was previously reference was made previously to the legal advisor on the Premier's committee. Just want to understand where does that fit in terms of the work of this committee. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Member Maria. Yeah, just in terms of the process, effectively, this is an opportunity for us now to satisfy ourselves with the response of the department in terms of the queries that were raised. And if we are then satisfied, we then move to the formal stage, which we would have done in the previous meeting. So that's where we currently are. So this is an opportunity for that, for members to decide if they are satisfied with that response. But maybe HD Gerber, welcome to you and your team. If you would like to maybe just answer in terms of the status of the Premier's legal advice along with your own. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, everybody. Yes, in terms of the process, obviously because it is a law reform process, there's a portfolio departments that with the relevant ministers would drive a process, but it's always in consultation with the Department of the Premier's Legal Services. So Tanya Faber is here from the Department of the Premier. And specifically on this matter, so it wasn't only our department giving a response. It is our department together with the legal advisors from the Department of the Premier that gave the response. It was a combined effort. And as we also were highlighting and reflecting as a team, we appreciate the fact that that we want the legal views to be raised, and that the committee can be satisfied by the fact that there was opportunity for the legal views to be raised, and even if there are differing views, so that one can see that there was an applying of mind, and then the committee will be able to be in a position to make an informed decision. I don't know whether Tanya, you want to add anything in terms of process?
Good morning, everyone. Chairperson, yeah, I don't know if the committee wants us to discuss some of the points in the legal opinion, or if there's any questions. There's very little that I can add to what we've already addressed in the legal opinion. But if there's any questions, clarification questions, we can address that. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah. So that was the opening of my deliberation here was for exactly that. We have had a sort of general question from Member Marais. Are there any other specific questions? All of the documentation has been provided to you, so you've had an opportunity to read through it, and I'm sure you have it in front of you. Are there any questions on any of that? We also have Ms. Kule here if there are any questions in terms of her legal opinion as well. Member Stoffel?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I'm a bit, maybe, I guess, after, I'm not sure. So the last time when we had this meeting, the conclusion was to say, Ms. Scholar, go back and come with her legal opinion. That was. Now there's another legal department. Now, I'm not sure whether, Chair, these two departments sit and bring a presentation to us in terms of that specific clause that we have differ with. I'm not sure. Can they assist me to understand what is happening now? Because that is my understanding, whether there's two different legal groups from different departments, but to this committee, there should be a consolidated legal opinion and not a legal opinion from that side and this side. Because that puzzled me here. I couldn't because it differ. And we can't discuss that here. It differ. Your legal opinion and her legal opinion, there's slight a difference within it. And that cannot be presented to this committee. Is it because we are not legal orphans? Sorry to say that. I don't want to be arrogant, but it leads to that. So, Chair, you must assist us.
I'm more than happy
to
to
say,
Yeah.
how do we navigate now?
Okay, so Member Stoffel, it's quite a simple process. Effectively, what
Yeah.
happened is Ms. Kule has provided a legal opinion based
Yes.
on an opinion that she had
Yeah.
during the previous meeting. All right, and she's provided that in a very succinct and consolidated fashion.
Mm.
We then distribute that to members and to the department so that members can apply their minds and the department can provide a response.
Mm.
Because if we had to come here with just that opinion and then only give the department an opportunity to respond after that, we would then be down the line for another few weeks to a month waiting for that process. So we've managed to do that all at the same time. They've had an opportunity to respond. They've consulted with their legal department as well as the legal advisor in the Department of the Premier and have provided a response. So we then have both the legal opinion and we have the legal response from the department in terms
Yes.
of how they view that legal
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
All right. And they've stated within that legal opinion all of the specific reasons why they do not agree with that specific legal opinion. And it is for us now as a committee, having had this now for, when did we get? About a week ago, to apply our minds during that time, to discuss it, and now to voice whether we are satisfied with the response of the department in terms of their response to that legal opinion, so we could then move on to the next phase of the process. So that's what we're currently busy with now. So if there are any specific questions in terms of any of those clauses or anything within that legal opinion, please feel free to raise that now, either to Ms. Kule or to Mr. Gerber and his team. Mr. Gerber?
Maybe just to assist and maybe ask Tanya to come in and the legal advisors, because often they in the legal drafting it's put forward as if there's differing legal views and that something is fundamentally flawed, or there's an error of law being made, but that's not what's before us. As I have it, and please come in, I'm going to try and put it in different terms, that we're saying that the requirements that's put forward is already in legislation. It's already codified in law through the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act. And therefore, it's not necessary to go further than that and further codify and go too far with provincial legislation, because municipalities legislate on these matters. And the general requirements is already in law through PAJA. And we've had all these years of practice where we've also seen in practice that PAJA is enough, because we've had, since 2013, 14, and then 15, when the municipal legislation came into effect that gave effect to Spluma and Lupa, they have been codifying that in the municipal planning legislation. And then, of course, on a case-by-case basis, if someone feels there wasn't reasonable public participation, then someone could challenge that. So we're also tracking the case law very carefully. There's quarterly meetings with all the heads of municipal planning. So the law reform that's being put forward comes from the practice, and that the legislation that we put in place at the time was prior to the practice, prior to seeing what municipalities do. So we've put in place general standards, and we give practice notes. And PAJA gives us the minimum requirements, and then the municipalities legislate in their bylaws. And that's really all that we're saying. So there's not this fundamental legal dispute about the fundamental legal flaw. We're saying there's enough legislation that frames the minimum requirements, and that we shouldn't go too far with provincial legislation by now further codifying a matter that is already codified enough. But I'm maybe oversimplifying it. Maybe So it's not that there are these fundamentally opposing legal views, that there is a flawed legal position being put forward. On the one hand, someone saying legislate even more, and we saying it's legislated enough.
Sorry, hang on, member. I just want to see. Did you want to respond further? Okay. Yes, member Stoffel.
Chair, with due respect, this is a professional. This is also professionals. It never happened in a committee like this, whereby you sit with two different views. I'm still of the view, HOD, you are correct. You are saying your team have looked into that. There's no difference, you whatever. Go and sit with her and come with a collective, because we want to challenge this. What I'm going to challenge here, whose view I'm going to challenge. I hope, Chair, you captured me correct. I don't want a situation where there's two different views from a legal department of one Western Cape Plantok. Go, please, Chair, through you, because now I have to take this document to my party. But I will say now, party, there's two different views here. According the HOD Chair, he's saying there's not much been differ from whatever is been said by Madam. But I'm saying there is. So hence, now I'm saying I've got a right to challenge it, but not in this fashion. And this is not a healthy practice for the committee. Because the committee must give a view from a perspective. But now there's a lot of perspectives. Now, what is the committee going to talk about? I don't want to try to be funny or what, but we should really look into what we are doing now. It's not on, Chair. Thanks.
Thanks, member Stoffel. Member Stoffel, I fundamentally disagree with you.
Okay.
We have a parliamentary legal advisor who is advising our committee. So that's the parliamentary activities. Part of our job is to conduct oversight over the department. So the department and our parliamentary committee are separate, so they can't have the same legal opinion on issues. We have had to deal with a legal opinion from one of our advisors, which we agreed to, and we requested as a committee, as members of the committee, that that be submitted, and that has been distributed to the department for their consideration so that they are able to respond, because obviously they differ from that opinion, because that opinion was put forward when the amendment bill was put to our committee, which they had already obviously put through their own legal process. So we gave the department an opportunity to respond. As Mr. Gerber has already explained, that specific clause that he's referring to in terms of PAJA, and that has been distributed well in advance, in detail. All members have had an opportunity to read through that and to consider it. So you are by no means compelled to agree at all. It's your right as a member of the committee to disagree, and if you choose not to participate in the process, you're also more than within your rights to do so. But as far as I understand it, and as far as the advice that I've been given by our procedural officer, we are compliant fully in terms of the way that we've proceeded. In fact, we've gone above and beyond in terms of allowing additional time for this secondary opinion to be considered, and for the department to respond to that. Do we have any specific questions on the opinion and the response? I see Member Marais has his hand up.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, for the sake of the public that's listening in, I would like to read the paragraphs 26 to 29 that came forth from the legal advisor appointed to this committee. And then perhaps the legal advisor from the department can then explain in terms of the counter argument for public interest. Chapter 20, paragraph 26. If sections 43 and 44 are repealed, it says that the advisor says that municipalities would remain subject to PAJA, but the more detailed statutory safeguards would be lost. In practice, this would permit greater procedural variability between municipalities. 27. This system inconsistency is due to differential institutional capacities between municipalities that risk weakening participation protections and undermining the principle of good administration the Act uses to promote consistency, predictability, and public trust. Paragraph 28. An alternative is therefore not a repeal, but a reformulation of sections 43 and 44 to preserve essential safeguards while allowing flexibility in methods of notice, publication, and service. And then paragraph 29. If the committee contemplates repeal, then it should require the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning to demonstrate that PAJA and Chapter 6 principles will, in practice, yield equivalence to the current sections 43 and 44 safeguards, especially in respect of safeguards designed to protect the public interest in the land use planning decisions. So the question remains, we are being referred, or public is being said that they can now resort to PAJA if they are unhappy. But we are taking the codified sections out of this act. That has other implications in terms of timelines, in terms of costs that will be loaded onto the public because they have to go the judicial review process after the fact. So I would like to give the department then an opportunity to respond, to give us the assurance that we are not robbing the public of their right to adequate public participation in any matter that affects them. I have raised in the previous committee, there is no definition for adversely affected. It's fine, you've mentioned it and we noted it. But this is an additional concern that was raised by myself and some of the members on the side. Thank you.
Thanks, Member Ria. Just for clarity, are you asking for a response in addition to the response they've already provided or on top of that?
A counter response to
Okay.
what was submitted.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll give an initial response and ask the team to come in. I think there's two different things being raised in the pieces being quoted there. The one is potential inconsistencies across municipalities and municipal capacity constraints. So that's a different problem in terms of whether there's minimum requirements set out in legislation in terms of what would be reasonable public participation. We're saying PAJA does provide enough of a safeguard. The fact that there might be as the Constitution provides that there are different spheres of government, and it is for each municipality has a distinct sphere of government and an authority on their own to decide in light of the legislation that applies and the framework legislation that applies, how they are going to codify. And as we've provided to you, the municipalities have in their bylaws codified how they give effect to PAJA. and are providing all the safeguards in the municipal legislation. It's not for us to go too far. It's for that authority, the municipal land use authority, to codify in the municipal planning legislation to how they give effect to PAJA. And as we've showed there, they're doing that. And it's not for us to go too far. We cannot legislate because we're assuming that there would be failure by municipalities. We can only legislate and regulate the effective performance and to the extent that we apply norms and standards. But we cannot legislate to try and there are different ways and means to manage if there are capacity constraints, if there are to promote consistency, to promote the best practice, which we are doing. We issue practice notes. We just issued a practice notes last week. We meet with the municipalities quarterly. We have them share their bylaws that they're working on with each other. And then there's the ongoing oversight and monitoring. We monitor the municipal land use management systems of all the municipalities very closely every year. We have the clients and the public and others also give inputs. There are forums set up with the public, with the members in the built environment sector. So we also get feedback directly from the citizens. And then we do track the cases that whether it's challenged on appeal or whether it goes to court, so that everybody also learns from that practice. And therefore, the fact that there might be inconsistencies between municipalities, well, that's what the Constitution provides for, that it is municipal policy. So if people think that a municipality's bylaw is not reasonable and doesn't adequately codify, then you challenge that process of how a municipality drafts their legislation, when they review their bylaw, when they review their land use scheme, when they provide for their legislation, whether it's through your ward councillor, whether it's through the mayoral committees, through those public participation processes, where through the democratic process, the municipal policy is formulated, the municipal legislation is formulated. It's not for us to impede, fetter, I'm quoting from the Constitution, onto their legislative exclusive municipal competency. We regulate the minimum requirements, we monitor and support closely, we share best practice between municipalities, but we cannot step into the municipal planning space and legislate for them how they will codify. There is enough to frame it. We monitor it closely, and the safeguards are there. And the practice have shown us that the safeguards are there. If it were to that there's a municipality that are battling because of capacity constraints or getting it wrong, then we have the other mechanisms in place through which we will then engage with the municipality on, you need to amend your legislation, you need to supplement. There will be challenges on specific applications where people will challenge the public participation process, and through that there will be learning and adjustment as required. But maybe to ask whether anybody from the team wants to add to that.
Ma'am, I noticed you wanted to mention something earlier.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think HOD Gerberg captured the essence of it. I just want to refer the members to a comparative table which I attached in Annexure A to the legal opinion. Basically, it just serves as a snapshot illustration of, comparing sections 43 and 44 and to just show how it fit into the legislative framework in relation to PAJA and the regulations, the Municipal Systems Act and the SPLUMA regulations. So in essence, what we're saying is that this legislative framework, together with the municipal bylaws, is giving effect to the provisions and the requirements of Section 33 of the Constitution. And it provides the necessary essential safeguards for fair procedural processes. No, I don't have anything to add to that. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, Member Stoffel. Is there anybody else who has a question? No one online? Oh, Member Masipa. Okay, Member Stoffel, I'm just going to take Member Masipa first, and then I'll take your follow-up after that. All right, is that all right? Member Masipa?
Okay, Chair. Thanks very much to HOD Harper and Ma'am. I think I worked quite extensively on PDAL, preservation of development of agricultural land and preservation. Yeah, I can't remember now the whole acronym. I think what I want to say is that I think some of the court findings were really saying Bluma is a function of municipalities, exclusively in most cases. And what I hear is that give the municipality that kind of authority. And I think there was a ruling against the Western Cape provincial government on Spluma issues that Western Cape tried to be involved in some of the planning and so forth. Am I correct that this is trying to address that particular issue? Thank you, Chair.
And then Member Stoffel, your follow-up?
Yes, Chair. Chair, I'm still of the view that the pager that is being explained to us here is still being used to replace the current authority of the municipality. And to me, it's that we can interpret it what way or whatever way. I'm still of the view that that pager interpretation from the legal side is been misrepresenting the actual view of the constitution. And then secondly, I'm still of the view that what is being explained does not counter what Mrs. Mpho legal, because I expected even that legal side will say, we differ with ma'am on this and this. Because she have put hers there. And this committee should now debate the two views. And here it's only one side to speaking. There's no stipulation from the other view. And it makes it difficult for us to participate.
Sorry, Member Stoffel, you're more than entitled to ask a question to Ms. Kula. That is exactly what we're doing right now. So this is an opportunity for questions and debate. That's what.
And I would love, Mr. Paul, to tell this committee in terms of the view that has been put by the Premier's office legal team, what in comparison her view, so that we as a committee can have a broad understanding and maybe we can bring this thing together as we sit, because it's our task to look into this. So, Chair, I would love if she could even defend her own view for the committee best interest. Thanks, Chair.
Perfect. Thank you. Exactly. That's exactly what we're trying to get to. So, just can you just reframe your specific question to Ms. Kule so we can get the response? You can just articulate the question.
Yeah.
No, but to try and assist that, and maybe to please stress it again that we didn't pre-decide our view,
Yes.
and then regardless of whatever view was going to submit it, we were going to defend our pre-existing position. We very specifically appreciate the fact that there's legal advice. We take all legal advice very seriously and then critically engage with it. And I'll go to your wording because that's really what you're asking. If you turn to that paragraph 26, that if sections 43 and 44 are appealed, municipalities would remain subject to PAJA. But the more detailed statutory safeguards, in other words, there will still be safeguards, but more detailed safeguards. And why the detailed safeguard is a concern, you then find immediately saying it would permit, if we don't have more detailed safeguards, but there'll still be safeguards, it would permit that there would be greater variability, greater inconsistency in the next paragraph. We know that the Constitution has specifically provided for that it's for each municipality to decide. So that is through the Constitution that we will have variability and we might have inconsistency, but that's how it's legislated. We cannot go too far where we now pre-decide everything for them and then there's no discretion that remains and then we undo the constitutional dispensation that we have. So to stress the fact, 26 does not say there will be no safeguards. It says there won't be detailed statutory safeguards, and then we'll have variability. And we're saying there will be safeguards still, and yes, there will be variability, but there are other processes through which we promote consistency and best practice and do oversight and support. And therefore, we're not fundamentally, we don't differ with that statement. We're just saying that's not a fatal flaw in what's being put forward in the law reform. If there are no more detailed safeguards, because the adequate safeguards are still in place. And yes, there will be variability, but we will manage that. But I'm just putting that. So please, engage.
Thanks, Mr. Shaban. I think just to kind of couch that in the same way that we deal with comments from the public in terms of the matrix, the members of the public will present a concern. It may be a valid concern, but it might not be something which needs to be addressed through legislation or for any of the proposed amendments to be changed. You can agree with the concern, but it might not necessitate a change in legislation. I think that's what Mr. Gab is getting at. Ms. Cooley, I'm sorry, I would like to give you an opportunity to speak as per Member Stoffel's request. And I think she's asked if you can just, what was your specific question, Member Stoffel? Sorry, can you just put your mic on?
Chair, just to be straightforward, for her to defend a view or
Okay,
to go into a view, explain to the committee to
Yes,
say what is meaning in terms of her view.
Thanks, I fully appreciate that.
Yes.
It's just great. So it's just important that we articulate questions because obviously
Yeah.
we're not a court of law, so we can't have that sort of a process.
This
but
is legal.
yeah, but
Each and every word counts.
Sorry, is your mic still on there, ma'am? There you go. Okay, Ms. Kula, over to you.
Thanks so much, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Chair, in my analysis, it was very important to go back and to ascertain what the intention of the legislature was in drafting these clauses into the act in the first place. Because as we all know, legislatures often draft with intention. There's no words that are lost. And, I looked into the original memorandum of objects because I couldn't, I had to find out why in this piece of legislation, these provisions were actually included, because it's quite a detailed codified process. So if you look, Chair, and what is very important is the intention of the legislator of the time is expressed in Chapter 6, and that's the land use principles that all organs of states needs to have regard to. And those are basically the principles of spatial justice, the principles of spatial resilience, good administration. Those are detailed in Section 59. So the one that is the most important for our inquiry is number 4, the principles of good administration. And it says, Chair, in 4E, legislation, procedures, and administrative practice relating to land development should be clear, promote predictability, trust, and acceptance in order to inform and empower members of the public. And then in D, it says the preparation and amendment of spatial plans, policies, zoning schemes, and procedure for land development and land use applications should include transparent processes of public participation that affords all parties the opportunity to provide inputs on matters affecting them. Now, Chair, what this committee, in my view, needs to concern themselves with is PAJA going to give effect to and promote the land use principles as the legislature initially intended it to? So meaning, if sections 43 and 44 are repealed, is PAJA going to yield similar, considerations such as good administration, which are remain in the act itself, and its preemptory is that we must. So my guidance, basically, it was never my case that PAJA cannot be utilized. It absolutely can, but it's a general law of general application. So the committee must be satisfied that should these sections be repealed, the principles that are reflected in chapter 4 will be given effect to. So that's my submission in short. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Ms. Kulia. And you've received a response. I just want to find out.
No, I haven't.
So you haven't received the response that was given by the department?
No, Chair.
To the committee.
Okay, so you haven't seen the response then? That hasn't been
No, I
provided
haven't
to
had
you?
sight of that, Chair.
Were you aware that everyone else had received the response?
No, it's the first I hear of it today.
Can go into it a bit.
Okay, I'm going to adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes. I'm going to give you an opportunity to peruse that response for now. If you're satisfied with perusing it for those 10 minutes, we'll then also flight the response and ask the department to speak to it, after which we will then deliberate and take a decision. All right.
Chair, I will peruse it. I'm not sure if 10 minutes will be sufficient, but I will advise the Chair accordingly.
Okay.
If that's fine.
All right, but we will make a decision based on whatever comes out of that today, either way, because it is important for us to actually move on with this legislation, and that response has been provided. Okay, so we then adjourn for 10 minutes. Mr. Kutse, can you make sure that Ms. Kule gets that response? Again, I'm not entirely sure why that wasn't provided. But if we can do that now, and then in 10 minutes time, we will go through that response, after which time the committee will be an opportunity to apply their minds and make a decision as to the way forward. So we adjourn for 10 minutes. Thanks.
Chair, just
I'm aware that you have another meeting that
Okay.
starts. What we have also done is, if need be, we have provided an additional slot tomorrow to come back. I hope we don't have to do that, because I know many members have other commitments tomorrow already. But if we are able to conclude today, that would be satisfactory. So if we can then reconvene at 25 minutes to 1. Thanks. All right. While Member Marais sits down, just welcome everybody back. Okay, so we've had an opportunity to just briefly allow Ms. Kule to have a read through of that document. I know, Ms. Kule, that it's not as much time as you would have liked. I totally understand that. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened, but it appears that that wasn't circulated to you. And I'm sorry that that happened. So I'm going to give you an opportunity now just to respond and what your kind of current view and take is on it, and we can then decide from there as to how to proceed going forward.
Thanks, Chair. To be honest, I am still even reading through the opinion now. I haven't had a chance to properly peruse it, assess it, look at, you know, the provisions that are quoted. But I think, Chair, also it is important for me to note that there have been significant engagements about this issue prior to this, which I have not been privy to. So I'm not sure what the way forward is, Chair. And I also note that within the email that was sent, there's a second legal opinion by the Office of the Premier. Chair, I haven't had enough time. My view is still that I have raised some very important legal points, and I need time to fully assess and offer a rebuttal if there is any to this. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Ms. Kule, and I appreciate that. I just want to find out the significant engagements that you mentioned, just so we are all on the same page.
Is a paragraph in the opinion itself. I cannot find it, where they refer to something like 10 years of, you know, the process being underway and the experiences from the process. Excuse me, Chair, I'm not sure exactly which paragraph it is.
Okay, understandable. You've only just received it, so I understand that. I am going to recommend then that we take our opportunity to come back tomorrow. I'm sorry for those who had other things on tomorrow at 1, but we will then have to reconvene tomorrow from 1 until 3. I myself am debating in the NCOP, so I'm going to have to find a substitute, but we will make a plan. This is important. But before we close, Mr. Khaba, I'm just going to give you an opportunity now, while we do have a little bit of time left, if you can, within just 10 to 15 minutes, just quickly articulate in brief, if you're able to, the position of the department in response, so we can at least mull that over in our minds before tomorrow.
I'll, without wasting any time, ask the team to do that, yes. And maybe zoom in on the key matter.
Chairperson, before Ma'am can...
Sorry, just hang on. Let me recognize you first. Yes, Member Stoffel.
Before Ma'am can give her input, can I just clarify with one question?
Of course, you're a member of the committee. Go for it.
I just want to know, it's the department who's coming to us as a committee with a bill for amendments.
Correct.
Is that what it is?
It's an executive bill, yes.
Yes, it's executive bill. All right. No, I'm clarified.
Great. Mr. Khaba?
Sorry? Honorable members, it was always going to be a daunting task to present what you've got in front of you. There was an opinion, a legal opinion provided, and the department as well as the Department of the Premier, was given an opportunity to answer the questions that were posed, and that we've done. So you've got in fact, you've got 3 documents in front of you: the legal opinion from Advocate Kule, and then also a supplementary opinion that she submitted a few days later. Then the department, our department, Environmental Affairs Development Planning, responded from a technical town planning point of view to those questions. So that is document 1, which you've got in front of you. And then document 2 is then a legal opinion by the Office of the Premier, assisting us with their legal views on it. So in our view, we have responded to those questions that the Kule has put to us satisfactory in our view, and that there is no need to fear this amendment. As Mr. Gerber has pointed out, he's obviously grabbed snippets from more than 40 pages in front of you. So it's if we were asked to present our views to this committee, we would have prepared, a presentation to you. But as the chairman said, we took it that you read it, and that you are now asking very specific questions. But maybe just to reiterate, we as a department also take public participation very, very seriously. This is not reducing in any way effective public participation by the municipalities. What this is we have now had, and Advocate Kule, that's your 10 years that you saw. We've now had 10 years since we sat here in front of you approving LUPA. The intent of the writer of the law, this is us, it was us, we were here. When this act, Land Use Planning Act, was initially drafted in 2013 and 2014, it was the first time in more than 100 years that planning was devolved to local authority level. So yes, at that time, we built in belts and braces, and we were tight as a province with the municipalities. Some argued at the time too tight. We overstepped our constitutional mark in terms of regulating municipalities. But now we've had 10 years of experience with the operation of this act, and we've seen our municipalities are performing their function. And there are problems with Section 43 and 44. There are problems. It's too rigid. Municipalities cannot perform their functions effectively, and we had to step in, and we had to repeal just a few sections, just a few small sections. But what happened when we repealed some of those small sections was that after we took them out, Advocate Kule, after we took them out, gave municipalities the necessary freedom that they need in terms of the Constitution, we suddenly realized that this act or this bill now looked very similar to PAJA. And there were even legal advisors, such as the legal advisor of the city of Cape Town, that says, why are you just copying PAJA? So in the end, repealing sections 43 and 44 was not because we want to get rid of it. It was because it looked exactly like PAJA. So that's where we ended up with. And we still have, in our opinion, honestly, we still have enough guardrails and variability, because the Constitution asks of us variability, to allow the municipalities to perform their constitutional municipal planning function effectively without interfering in their business. With Section 155(7) of the Constitution, Advocate Kule, you know that very well, is a, you can easily overstep your mark there by being too prescriptive. And we've just taken 2 or 3 steps back, and we ended up with PAJA. By the way, PAJA regulates all 8 other provinces. They don't have a provincial law. That is the situation in all the other provinces anyway. So I think we are, in the answers that we've given, Honourable Member Stoffels, to you in writing, the 40 pages that you've got in front of you, we believe we've answered the questions, we've allayed the fears, and you should feel comfortable with this bill. because public participation is not something to play with. It is, in terms of our courts, at least our experience in environmental and planning law, that's the thing that most court cases stumble across. So we won't play with that. We're serious about doing that right. Yeah, thanks. I think I'll stand down there, and maybe my legal colleague from the Premier's office can answer more some of the legal stuff. That is just from us as the department from a planning point of view. Thanks, Chair.
Mr. Monroe, I'm going to stop you there. I think that is a brief enough sort of executive summary for us to understand where you're coming from. And before I close, I would like us just to maybe see if we can consider members. We have 1 o'clock down for tomorrow. Would anybody object to us making the meeting a morning meeting as opposed to an afternoon meeting? It will just help with traffic, I know, with getting back. And also, I know other members also have commitments tomorrow afternoon that might be a bit tricky to get out of. Can we just, by show of hands, see if we are comfortable with a 9 a.m. start tomorrow again? Otherwise, we'll have to make it 1 p.m. Happy with 9 o'clock. All right. So we will, yeah.
Person, yeah.
Pardon?
In person, yeah.
In terms of officials, yeah, I think, look, if need be, we can provide a link if there is anybody who is unable to make it physically. 9 is all right. Okay. Ms. Kula, are you able to come join us tomorrow morning at 9? Okay. That's perfect. Thank you so much. Yes, Ms. Vermeulen?
Chairperson, I just want to make a comment if it's
yes, of course.
Chairperson, just from a procedural point of view, everything is above board, the way the committee has handled the situation up until now. Chairperson, also it's part of life. You will get different opinions, legal as well as other opinions. And sometimes the way I understand the law, sometimes when, for example, the High Court makes a judgment, then all the lawyers have to now go with that opinion. But up until such time, you'll find different opinions. But just, Chairperson, also in terms of tomorrow, I don't want to preempt because you, as a Chairperson and the committee, are giving room for further discussion. But you may find, Chairperson, that even after tomorrow, between your legal opinions, you still don't have consensus. And the committee will have to take a decision, Chairperson, at some time. Because that is why you've been elected. You know, your job sometimes is difficult, and then you will have to weigh up, even though there may not be consensus. So tomorrow's meeting should be seen as a continuation of your deliberation on the bill, but not necessarily, and I'm not saying anybody does see it like that. I just want to mention in terms of procedure, not for the different legal advisors or legal professionals to get to a uniform view, because that may not happen.
100%, Mr. I fully agree with you. I wanted to conclude this process today. And the only unfortunate part was that Ms. Kula hadn't received that opinion. So we would have been able to then deal with that, apply our minds, hear the opinions, and then the members would have been able to make a determination. But we will make that determination tomorrow. Thank you so much. Yes, Member Stoffel, closing remark.
Thank you for recognizing me, Chair. Chair, I hear what the department is saying, but I think it's necessary that we must mention this. In the first place, any department to come and present to the committee should have the consensus of the committee. That's the first one. When it comes to the committee procedures, here we was not aware about your view. That's point number one. Number two, this bill come from the department to us. So the department can't be a player and a referee. So I just want us to bear that in mind. You brought the bill to us. Allow us to do our work. So thanks, Chair. I just wanted to bring this under your attention as much as you want us to take note what you are saying. Please take note of what I am saying as a member of a party who is responsible for the oversight of this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Member Stoffel. But just to correct you, their opinion was provided to everybody. So we have received that. We received it last week. So we have gotten the opinion. So we were prepared. It's only Ms. Kule, for some reason, who didn't receive it. It was sent out to all the other members.
Let me correct what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm saying in terms of the mandate for them to bring to us, we as a committee was not aware.
So I don't follow. Member Masipa?
Chair, I think it's a standard practice in Parliament that when we deliberate on the bill, the government come and do, as an executive bill, they present and they answer their cases. And once they've done, then they are excused. We deliberate, we form a position on the bill. So I'm just trying to. No. But,
sorry, we're
but
not
we
having.
are still-
Can we just have one meeting? Member Masipa, Member Stoffel, can we please have one meeting? That's very disrespectful.
Yeah.
Member Masipa was speaking.
Yeah.
Member Masipa?
So I think I'm just saying that Member Stoffel must not conflate the issues here. So you have asked the department to respond to the legal opinion, and the department has answered. So we say, because tomorrow, because today, May Mpo could not really assist us in terms of us, being able to finalize this bill. So we give her an opportunity. She's going to engage the opinion from the department. And once she has engaged the department, then, she has engaged the opinion, she will come tomorrow and be part of this discussion. And then once they have done, we are satisfied with their inputs, then we'll excuse them to leave, and then we will continue with our deliberation. That's my understanding of how the committee works in terms of bill making or law making. Thank you.
100%. Spot on. Got nothing else to say. Thank you. Colleagues, we'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll do all the minutes and the amendments and the resolutions tomorrow.